We're loading in now. I
Okay.
think. What up, guys? And welcome into Maybe I'm the Crazy One podcast. I'm your host, Alex Chandler, and guess what? This is our first ever live show that we're doing for you all here today. That's incredible, and I'm excited to share it. And look at this, we're all here today too. Let me go ahead and get our time started. I don't know if our anybody watching can see it, but if they can, they can. If they can't, they can't. Guess what? We can now. And so we got Eric here. First time in season four, it feels like, even though I know you did a couple episodes with us. I think it was like week three, week four.
Something
Um,
like that.
and then obviously Aaron's here as well. How you guys doing in the new year?
Doing good. I'm doing great, doing great. Life's crazy a bit right now, but everything's good. Can't complain.
Absolutely. And Aaron, you?
Oh, just waiting for the Super Bowl to kick off and get over with so I can focus on other things.
Oh, focus on other things. I don't know why you'd want to focus on other things. As you guys can see from behind Eric here, it's a rematch of Super Bowl 57. Um, I don't really like to talk about Super Bowl 57 a whole heck of a lot, but we'll get to that here in a little bit when we talk about Super Bowl 59. I'm excited for the game. Clearly, you can see, everything around me here and what's going on there. So that's exciting. However, you know, uh, let's just go ahead and get everything started because in the middle of this, Super Bowl week, we've had a couple huge things happen outside of the NFL. Now, granted, Miles Garrett asked for a trade, Cooper Kupp asked for a trade, and those are definitely
It
important things.
didn't ask for a trade.
No, sorry, Cooper Kupp did not ask for a trade. Cooper Kupp was told he's going to be traded. Sorry.
Correct.
Yeah.
Either way, both are going to be on new teams. We'll get to them closer to when free agency is actually, going on for the NFL because two massive deals have happened in the last, 48 hours, 72 hours now, as of, at the time that we're doing this. And that's Luka Doncic going to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and one first round pick. Granted, I think Jalen Hood Schifino or Schifino Hood, I'm not sure which order of operations
Hood,
his last name is
Hood
going on.
Schifino, I'm pretty sure.
Hood Schifino, okay, is going to Utah as well. But huge, huge deal here as the Mavs basically move off of Luka because of concerns, quote unquote, about conditioning. Which to me, Luka has literally looked like the same person his entire career. Um, and so, like, if that was your problem, now it was probably your problem 6 years ago. And then the other thing that they stated was like he's worn out his welcome, basically. I want to get your guys' feelings on this because it's been said a couple different times throughout the media over the last week or so since the trade has happened, but this is the largest deal I feel like I can remember personally, for
Hmm.
a mid-season acquisition at least. There's been obviously some bigger players, go to different teams over the last 20, 30 years since free agency really took off. But, I was in shock when they sent it. I messaged you guys a couple of days afterwards and was like, I'm still in shock. So
I
what are your
think
thoughts?
the fact that it went under the radar that it did because the day and age where technology and everything's reported
Hmm.
and this regarding a superstar of Luca's caliber, not that AD is also not obviously great, but like the fact that, two superstar players and all of a sudden it's just like, oh, this trade's happening, not this trade is supposedly happening, and then it happens like we see 99% of the time. And then the deal was done and yeah, shook the whole basketball slash sports world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even Patrick Mahomes had things to say about it, on Twitter before he went to sleep, apparently after he woke up at media day the other day. Eric, do you feel the same way? Is your heart hurt for Mavs fans?
Yeah. I mean, you I don't know. It's like if the Thunder all of a sudden just woke up one day and was like, "Yep, I think we're gonna trade SGA. I think that's what we're gonna do." It
I
just
mean,
it just it's weird. I still don't understand why they did it. And I don't know.
it's not even just that though. It's that they traded. It would be like if the Thunder woke up, granted, with Sam Presti, greatest GM in the league, he picked up another second round pick today for with Daniel Tice for money. So we have 712 picks now, not 711 picks. Oh, we lost Eric. We'll work to get him back here, it looks like, but it is what it is. In the meantime, what I was trying to say is it'd be like if, the Thunder went and got traded SGA to Portland for, Robert Williams the third and two picks. Like it would make no sense. Absolutely no sense whatsoever. Luka's, if you want to argue he's not, top three guy in the league, I'll give you that. That's sure. That's fine. I think you're wrong at that point, but I'll let you have your feelings. There's no debating he's a top eight player in the league. And as a
No.
top eight player in the league, there's nothing that's available in like the realm of possibility that he goes for a guy that was drafted in the second round and Max Christie. Anthony
Hmm.
Davis, which granted, when they traded for Anthony Davis, they used like six draft picks to get him, but they also then had him for 6 years. So
Hmm.
I don't know if you can necessarily say like his value is intrinsically tied to those picks they gave up for him. So take that away from from the equation at that point. You're still just at a player, which granted, high level player, but what would you trade for Anthony Davis right now? Two picks, three picks?
I would say definitely two for sure.
Two. Okay.
Like, yeah,
So,
he has the injury history, but like his numbers are great.
mhm.
So like, I don't know if they just were overselling the or underselling, whichever way you look at it, like his injuries and
Mhm.
him being out. But I have a feeling with the trade that we got slash saw, like I have a feeling that had something to do with it,
I really think it's just because Nico Harrison. There's two things. Nico
and
Harrison
him too.
really doesn't like Luca.
Yeah.
Like, didn't like him. Felt like, yeah, I'm in charge here. You're not in charge here. I'm the GM. You're just a player, and that went to his head, and it caused it to him to do what he has done and got rid of Luca. The other part of it to me is that, and this was a theory I read somewhere where Nico Harrison is really good friends with Anthony Davis because he used to
Hmm.
rep him at Nike. He also used to be a part of the LeBron James conversations at Nike. And so what is like somebody a year ago when they traded for Kyrie said that put out an article that said the Lakers should use Kyrie to implode the Mavs and get Luka Doncic in a few years.
Wild.
And it's not that Kyrie did that because I'm going to say Kyrie has been a saint for that team. He even through this trade, he's showing leadership and
Just not in the finals.
I mean, you can when you're a 2A guy, you can only do so much. So Eric's back with us, by the way, guys. Welcome back,
Yeah.
Eric.
Sorry about
I
that.
don't even know if he was a 2A guy in the finals, bro. Straight up disappeared.
No, you're right. That's fair. But you know what I'm saying though, where it's like, y- it's just wild, and it's so crazy to think this. Eric, you missed it. As what I basically said to piggyback off of what you were saying was like if SGA was traded to Portland for Robert Williams the third and a couple picks. I mean, even when Kevin Durant
Yeah.
was traded for 2 years ago, which I don't think Kevin Durant 2 years ago is the player Luka is now, let alone
No.
player that Kevin Durant is now. But he was traded for Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, and five picks at that point, four picks. And then Bridges was traded for five more picks the following offseason to the Knicks. And so, like, while I said Anthony Davis 6 years removed, that trade value is not there. 1 year removed, I feel like that's absolutely still valuable. And so, even if you took two of those off, that means they got eight picks. Like, eight picks were involved effectively for the players that were traded for Kevin Durant and Kevin Durant. And that's just not what's the case with Luca. And so the Mavs absolutely screwed up. This is a Babe Ruth to the Yankees level, like trade.
Speaking of the Thunder, did you see that? I don't know how recently it was when James Harden went on the podcast and said that basically the only thing that made the blow up happen was literally just $5 million.
Yep. And what goes even further than that is it wasn't even that much more in the luxury tax, which what it would have cost.
Yeah,
Like it's 5 million
because
to James. And granted, that
because
was
it
five per year. It wasn't
because
five total, but it was
right,
five per
but
year.
well, they said they gave that to what, Surge, right? Is that what
They
it
ended up
is?
giving it to Surge, yeah.
Yeah,
And granted, we used Surge for 3 more years after that, and then traded him to Orlando for Oladipo. Then used that in Sabonis to get Paul George, which then we used to get SGA. So at the end of the day, it still worked out best for the Thunder there.
right.
Um, but yeah. The other trade involves your Heat, and that actually happened about 20 minutes before we actually went live tonight. And so we're kind of this is a raw reaction to that trade, but Jimmy Butler is now on the Warriors. Um,
Yep.
at least for right now, Andrew Wiggins and who else did you guys get? Kyle
Mark,
Anderson and Dennis
Ky
Schroeder,
Kyle Anderson and Dennis Schroeder. Yeah,
Shooter. Yeah.
and then a pick that actually I think is going to be pretty valuable depending on what the protections are on it.
but it also said that like PJ Tucker's involved as well as because it includes the Pistons and Lindy Waters and Josh Richardson heading to Detroit.
Okay, so
That got added
oh,
recently with the update when
from the
they
Kyle Anderson situation.
yeah.
With the Raptors. Okay, so this really, honestly, this trade may not even be finalized yet. Like, there's still probably still some moving pieces involved to get it over the finish line, but we're really close here. But you are a resident Heat fan. I personally don't think the Heat are contending this year, or honestly, next year. Right now, to be completely honest with you, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
What are
Like
you laughing about over there, Clippers?
Hey, we're fine.
they're like
All right.
we're
28-19 right
okay.
now.
Yeah, you
They're
get
actually.
calm down.
I don't know about you, but they're 10 games above 500. So
We're still the sixth seed in our conference as of
in the
yesterday.
worst conference.
I don't care. Still a better seed than them.
Are they? Aren't they the sixth seed in their conference too?
I'm pretty sure last time I looked.
Well, if they're
Who?
both six seeds, then wouldn't it come down to record then if we're saying who's better?
The Heat are the seventh seed, so correct that.
Until we win as
Until
we're
you
winning it
win.
tonight when we're beating the Sixers.
And the Clippers are the sixth seed at 28 and 22. They've got 4 games on you guys. Well, 3 games, I guess, if depending on how you look at the loss win column stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you guys are moving the wrong direction in the Clippers, and they're moving the right direction in the Heat in terms of the standings because they were at like 10th, and you guys were like at third.
Well, they've lost two in a row, so are they really moving in the right direction?
Hey, as long as everybody's rowing their boat in the right direction, it doesn't matter. Okay. You know what? They just need a Jalen Hurts on their team. That's all they need. Because then, after the game, they'd walk out there and they'd be like, hey, you guys lost tonight to the 76ers. Jimmy Butler was also traded to the Warriors. How do you feel about that? And they'd be like, you know, trying times really make the person. But you really got to take the time to try to make it out right. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get it. We're gonna be good. We're gonna get it together. The boat rows the same way.
Well,
Oars are facing
they
off
traded
together.
for Eubanks and Patty Mills, so are they really going in the right direction?
This is a matter of perspective. I feel like, you know, and sometimes it's gonna look one way that you don't expect it to look, and we're just out here to get the job done. And so if it's Patty Mills, Drew Eubanks, it doesn't matter. Okay.
But in other big news, the other big trade, De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs to help out
De'Aaron
Wemby.
Fox for the Spurs, yeah. I mean, we didn't even have time to talk about that. Too bad Wemby can't seem to get above 500. So, I remember Pepperidge Farm told me that Chris Paul was going to be the savior for that man. And now Chris Paul is going to be playing like 14 minutes a night because he, is just
But
too
now
old.
now the Kings got 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, and Levine and Sissoko. So
And they also went and traded for Jonas Valanciunas today too, from
that's
the
true. That one was also like literally what, like an hour ago,
couple
maybe.
hours ago. Yeah, but and then also, since we're just recapping all of these bigger trades, I guess Kyle Kuzma for Chris Middleton. So Washington to the Bucks. It is what it is. It doesn't move the
Mm,
needle for me. Doc Rivers is
mm.
still the coach there, so even if they go up 3-1 in a series, they're not winning it. Um, yeah. So I mean, that really encompasses the NBA. It's still before the All-Star week, which I guess I told you guys I had a theory on how to fix the Pro Bowl, and so we can
Hmm.
sneak that in here real quick. It's just a couple minute thing. I want to get your guys' thoughts on it, but I want to get it out there for somebody too. Our problem with the Pro Bowl is that the best players aren't showing up for the Pro Bowl. And
Correct.
it's the same argument I had, when we talk about Pro Bowls and if it matters as this actual stat. Eric and I famously had like a 30-minute argument on the show about this 2 years ago. And, I was like, all pros matter, Pro Bowls don't. All stars don't matter, Pro Bowls do. Or not Pro Bowls, all pros do. All NBAs do. And the only exception is if you have an absurd amount of them. And if you have an absurd amount, like, I think, what is it? LeBron's at the 22 now. Kobe had 19. MJ had 15. Magic was not even in the league one year and got an all-star bid. Like, there's a bunch of shit that happens with the All-Star games and Pro Bowls to where, for example, Drake May, who threw for 1,900 yards this year, was in the Pro Bowl. That doesn't seem like an actual Pro Bowl person. So first
No.
and foremost, what we need to do is have two teams still. And the first team is the fan team. And the second team is the coaches team. And the fans can vote on a choice of like 7 or 8 different coaches to be the coach of the fan team. And then they get their roster of fan players. Okay? And so whoever's voted in by the fans, that's your team. And then there's the coaches team that says these are the actual good players that are there. And they play each other. Because at the end of the day, Pro Bowl, you're typically not going to get bad players in the Pro Bowl, at least from a voting standpoint. It's going to be alternates and replacements and things of that nature that lower that value. And so I think and also this was also a little bit born because of the fact that LaMelo won the fan vote in the NBA, but is not an all-star. And so kind of the same concept here is you could do the same
Hmm.
thing in the NBA where you have a fan team and a non-fan team, or it's a coach team or whatever it may be. That way you're honoring what the fans are wanting and doing, especially if you're going to do this stupid ass 3-team or 4-team format, whatever they're doing for this year. But anyway, back to the Pro Bowl. And then the other thing, when listening to like Greg Jennings talk about the Pro Bowl or Willie Colon or any other like former athlete that's on TV now talk about the Pro Bowl, the reason they went to Pro Bowls in the past is because of the location, because of the venue. You got to take your
Hmm.
family to Hawaii for a vacation. Well, what's the NFL's push right now in a holistic sense for the league? International marketing. Stop playing this game in Orlando. Just stop. Stop doing
Hmm.
7 or 8 international games a year. Instead, send our players to a really nice place like Australia, like Brazil, like somewhere across the pond where a lot of these players and teams are in cold weather cities during February, where it's one of the coldest months in the country.
Send them to Spain.
Mhm.
Send them somewhere else where you're going to be able to get international marketing. It's a actual like prize and treat for these players, and maybe Joe Burrow shows up. And granted, Joe Burrow was there this year. Lamar and Josh weren't there this year, but like even like Russell Wilson was there. Russell
Eric,
Wilson got to a
Eric
Pro Bowl
Sky.
this year.
He
Eric
should not have
Sky.
been there.
No. And
No.
like that's your guy, Eric.
That
And
is
you
my guy.
absolutely would back that dude 100,000% every single chance you get. And you're like, yeah, he ain't a Pro Bowler. But he was
No.
there. He was there, man.
I
And
think
so
I think there's also like I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit also is there is no consequence. It is left up to the players entirely. Like if they want to go, they can go. They don't have to. I mean,
So they
even if
do
you,
unless they have a designation as to why they cannot go. So if you're injured, that's an easy way to get out of it, which
well,
granted,
most of the
it's a
days
long
now,
season.
all those players can figure out how to get out of it.
And that's exactly what I was going to get at is technically you have to have a reason to get out of it, but like Josh Allen got out because of his hand. Lamar got out. There was something that Lamar specifically, like there was a reason for why he got out as well. So you have to have
What
like
wasn't his leg like hurt
was it his leg?
or
Again,
like
it's typically going to be an injury reason, but a lot of those injuries are injuries.
yeah.
So, and like I would honestly prefer that also every alternate that is added to the game is not listed as a Pro Bowler. I get there at the game, I get there, but they don't get the designation of Pro Bowler.
Yeah,
Just don't get it.
you shouldn't get a Pro Bowl like quote unquote nod saying you're a Pro Bowler selection when you got there because Josh Allen, Lamar turned it down, or Jalen Hurts and whoever else
Saquon can't
Saquon
go.
turned it down.
Jalen Carter can't go. Saquon
Jaden
can't go.
Daniels.
Patrick Mahomes, who was the fourth alternate, couldn't go because he's in the Super Bowl. Like, there's a bunch of different ways to fix it, but that's my thought: is giving the international window, like, get that game somewhere else in the world. And if you want to still have the international games, whatever. I just know that it's like the least favorite thing that players get to do during the season. We then have to accommodate typically with bye weeks on the back end of it. Or on the front end of it, and that can create
Mhm.
some schedule congestion and issues there. It just opens up the game a little bit more for you to be able to say, "Hey, we're going to reward you for actually being a great player this year." Or in a flight to Orlando for these, and granted, a flight anywhere for most of these guys is irrelevant, but like
Hmm.
Orlando's not a special place to go.
No.
But if you go to Madrid and play, you know, at Atletico Stadium there, then Bernabeu, right?
Bernabeu.
Bernabeu, whatever. But if you go play there, that's going to be an excellent opportunity to show off and showcase
Hmm.
NFL talent with your best players. Like showcase the best thing that you have in like your celebrity game. Which if Roger Goodell is already okay with us potentially hosting a Super Bowl internationally, which is what he said this week, if we had an NFL team internationally, he'd be consider hosting the Super Bowl internationally, which seems absurd to me. Um,
Absolutely.
but like you're okay with that, but you're not going to move this game, which clearly has other problems, has marketing issues, has everything that's a problem with the game for the last 10 years. You're not going to do anything with that? Okay.
That's like the Champions League final being played over here.
It would be ridiculous. It would be ridiculous.
Hmm.
What's that? What's your thought?
None. I was just thinking,
So,
I don't know why, but I was just like, why don't you just get rid of the whole game entirely?
well, here's my thing. If you go international, what if you just do it after the Super Bowl instead?
You could do that too.
Yeah, dude, after Super
Like,
Bowl.
because then, like, and even if you take a week off, like, to let families that, for the players that would be in it celebrate with their, obviously, because, they have parades and whatnot, like that
Yeah.
following week,
Mhm.
you take that week, that whole week to celebrate whatever, you have the whole week off, and then that next week you fly, as Alex, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Suggested, and you fly somewhere internationally, and then you can still continue to celebrate, bring your family, whatever, and still showcase, and then you still have your best players, and it's after the season, so like, obviously if you're injured, you're injured, but after that the season's done, and then you don't have to worry about the next game or your top players not being there unless they're hurt during the playoffs.
Mhm.
Because let's be real, like if they're going to be hurt the week between the conference finals and the Super Bowl, they're going to be hurt that next week, most likely, regardless. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
why not just do it after at that point?
Yeah.
Or I mean, for yeah, probably the last quarter century now, they've tried to, make the day after the Super Bowl a holiday. Just move everything back a week in the schedule. Hell, move everything up a week and back a week. Add a week of bye weeks in there for international play. Make the Pro Bowl that week of the international play, right? And then you get a bye week on both sides. Add an 18th week somewhere if you want to. I don't care. Like there's ways to accommodate what the NFL wants in totality.
Hmm.
And it's just a matter of,
But yeah, something has to change because like I've had no interest in the Pro Bowl. I don't even think I've watched a Pro Bowl game in the past 10 years.
again, about as long as the problem has existed. And Eric, you're right. Stop playing the game. I don't think that's the answer because that
Well, no,
shouldn't be the answer.
not necessarily. So the reason I say not play the game, I meant like, how am I trying to say it? Like, why do we hate the NBA All-Star game? Because no one plays physical. Everyone literally is all offense, and no one tries to guard or anything. Doesn't because they're a their own prospective teams don't want them to get hurt.
Because they're in the middle of the season.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and also for football players, they're like, dude, if you play a contact sport and you get hurt, you tear an ACL or completely have an ending career like injury, like you're like, dude, I don't want to go do that. Why would I go do that and like accidentally get hurt? Like, you need to change it to where, like for example, like I don't know, some different type of games or something like all five top QBs versus each other or something. I don't know. It's like back in the day, the NBA, we used to love the contests, sorry, because the people we loved and wanted to see participated in it.
Hmm.
Right?
Except
Nowadays,
LeBron.
well, we don't need to talk about him. But like, you know what I mean? Like there was things that we loved watching besides the actual game, that the like 3-point contest or stuff like that, because the people who were like on top in those categories participated. And we
Yeah.
loved enjoying it. Now people are just exit out of it. We don't watch the dunk contest anymore because I mean no one
Yeah,
who
'cause now
actually dunks.
yeah,
This
we're gonna
year
get
it's-
we're gonna get Matt McClung for the eighth time.
Yep, this year it's Mac McClung and 3 rookies.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what we
see,
got.
I just that's what I mean by like the NFL. Like they don't need to have like a flag football game. I think they just should have like things to like compete each other to be who's the top like QB, and who can throw it the farthest, who can throw it the
Do they
fastest. I don't know.
Do they still do like some of the? Because obviously I haven't watched. Do they still do like the skills stuff, like
They
with the
do
throwing,
skills, but like
like where like the
it's
QB, where like the QBs like before, like back in the day when you had like Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, all of them, like they would throw at the targets, and then like
Mhm.
and like the end of the ball would have like whatever powder on the end, and then you get points for it, and then there's rounds. And then like, the last one is like a move, like you do a rollout and throw it. Like, do they still do that? Because like I thought that was at least pretty entertaining.
They have the skills competition still. It's all housed inside and it's electronic. And so like they have like moving targets and stuff. It's not quite the same as it used to be.
no, it's
And then
kind
it
of
went away for a couple years. And then they brought it back like 2 or 3 years ago. Um, but either way, it's broken.
like to me.
Um,
I'd love to go see like Tyreek Hill, Saquon. Who else is the fastest person in the NFL?
Xavier Worthy.
Xavier
Xavier
Worthy.
Worthy, CD Lamb. Hey, a race. Let's do it. I'd love to see it. See who's fastest. I don't know. It's entertaining. They're entertainers, right?
Mhm.
Like make something. They don't have to be contact activities.
I mean, I get why they want to have a game. It's supposed to showcase your sport. That's what the
True.
All-Star game is there. The other thing that nobody ever wants to talk about because, it frankly doesn't work for the Jordan arguments is the level of talent in the league is at an all-star level from the 90s every single night. Every single game has 2 or 3 all-star caliber players in it. Every
Mhm.
single game. And that wasn't the case in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s. And we were getting Magic versus Bird in that game. And, it was Magic and Stockton and Malone versus Pippen and Jordan and Ewing. Like, that's exciting because you didn't get 3 stars on a team. Every single
Mm-mm.
team now has at least 1 star, if not 2 stars. that they at least they deem as a star. That's their guy. Kyle Kuzma, for example, was a star in Washington, and like you know what I mean. And it's just there's answers. There's answers. It's just a matter of being willing to break format and do different things. So, anybody else have anything to say on that? I said this was going to take 2 minutes, took
No.
15. So, but hey, first 30 minutes of the show seems pretty good so far. That means that we move on to the main event. And this show has a format. We've done the format for quite some time now. We talk about the football games of the week. Some weeks we talk about 5 games or 6 games. Some weeks we don't talk about 5 or 6 games. And that's one of those weeks this week because there isn't 5 or 6 games to talk about. Hell, there's barely 5 or 6 players to talk about. We have less than 5 or 6 quarters left in the season. And I say that because, last year it went to overtime +1. So, so 5 or 6 quarters left, guys. That was pretty clever if I say so myself.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have lived under a rock for the last 22 weeks or so, the Eagles are what is our record now? 17-3? Yeah, 17-3.
Sounds
And the
right.
Chiefs are 17-2. Yeah, 17-2. They played one last game because they had the bye week. So 17-2 Chiefs, 17-3 Eagles. Guys, I have every offensive and defensive stat in front of me here that you could possibly want. I don't think I necessarily need to go that route. Not yet, at least. Okay. And so I think what we should do, because we haven't been on through the whole playoffs, we didn't do our pre-playoff show like we normally do because of how busy our lives have been the last 4 months or 5 months. It's been pretty chaotic. I can't remember when we did our last episode, but I think we need to give these teams their flowers. Let's start there because they worked hard to get here. It's these teams, especially for the Chiefs, being here 3 consecutive years, 5 out of 6 years. The Eagles, this is their third Super Bowl in 8 years, second in 3 years. You know, loose and fast with the math there, maybe a little bit, but it is what it is. What I'm looking at is Eric. Let's start with the Chiefs here because they're the away team.
Okay.
What was your thoughts on their season? Not necessarily this game coming up, but the 19 games previous to today or this week.
Thoughts on their season. Let's see. Their defense has shocked me game after game. Um, a different player rises to the occasion. I say, like to me this year, like Chris Jones hasn't really like he's been there, right?
Mhm.
But like Karlaftis, who doesn't get a lot of attention or they're like how you would say flowers, um, or like how do I say it? Like the attention he should deserve.
Underappreciated.
Yeah, he's underappreciated. Thank you. Um, I just feel like that defense has grown a lot than I thought they would. I thought they would take a step back um, from losing
Sneed.
Sneed. Thank you. And they didn't. They actually took a couple steps forward, and they continue to take steps forward. Now their offense, that's a different story. I thought their offense was gonna be pretty solid, be consistent, and I don't know. It just they. I mean, they figured out how to win every game, but they struggle like either in the beginning or towards the end or in the middle. Like they struggle somewhere in the game, and it takes them a while to click back in or like configure like where like how to get their offense going again. Because I feel like this year a lot the defense did felt like they bailed them out a lot. Um,
They did.
so I don't know. I just that's kind of how I see it. I mean, their offense wasn't as what I thought as hot that they were going to be, and their defense kind of took me
I
for a
mean,
shock.
their to be fair, their top receiver was out all year,
Yes,
basically.
true. But still, I mean,
Their second receiver was also out.
but
Yeah.
but if you look at years past, Mahomes kind of had a down year. I mean, he didn't have a what you expect Mahomes to have a high caliber of, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
He didn't have a Mahomes-esque year.
Yes.
I hate that. I'm sorry. I mean,
Why?
so we all know more than likely where I'm going to end up on this game. It's not a
At
surprise.
least stats wise. Obviously the win column is where it matters, but
Yes, that's where it matters.
what we've come to expect, which like I mean for what how many touchdowns did he have that was his second year? Like was like 50 or
Yeah.
whatever, 48. Like
Sure.
obviously like we knew that was going to be hard to replicate. But
Yes.
like even like after they lost Tyreek, he still had like what 40 plus, and and maybe that's just like this, like that's what us as well as maybe even Chiefs fans expected to him to do, as unrealistic as it is. But I mean, a step back, at least in the form of stats, a step back is still a step back. Yes, like they obviously won all the games and they found ways to win, and that's all that matters when it comes down to it. But in terms of the the usual quality that he's put out was, especially at least in the turnover department.
So again, let me say this. I'm going to push back a little bit. Again, we know where I'm more than likely going to land in this game. So the fact that I'm the one doing this seems really counterproductive to my whole argument at the end of the day. But it is what it is. I got the numbers right here. And while yes, his quarterback rating for his career is like an average of like 102, and it was down to 93 this year, and that was including week 18 where Carson Wentz played. That's actually the scene that like the team's quarterback rating. It's not actually like his, so his was actually just slightly higher than that. Um, they still threw for 4,000 yards. Now they didn't have the explosive plays, which I think is the like the part that we're talking about there. But they were still top half of the league in yards. They were top 10 in passing touchdowns. They were top 6 in passing attempts. They were top 10 in completion percentage. They were tied for 11th in turnovers and went 8 straight games, an NFL record without a turnover. Like there was early issues, and I think we can attribute that to Hollywood Brown going down and Rashee Rice getting lost. I think it was what, week 2, week 3, whatever it was. And Isaiah Pacheco breaking his leg and them having to get Kareem Hunt off the street and find somebody to make these replacements. I think there's some of that goes into that conversation, but once they studied everything out, they weren't turning the ball over. And again, the other part of that, go back to the 2021 season when they played the Bucks. What was the issue for them that year? It was their offensive line. And this year, same issue was occurring. It's the offensive line, specifically from the tackle perspective, from the tackles. And so they moved Tooney to the outside.
It was the what's his name that they always gets flagged for.
Juwan Taylor.
Yeah.
Juwan Taylor on one side, but then remember Kingsley Suamaiata started the season for them, was then benched for Wanya Morris, was then benched for Kingsley Suamaiata, was then benched for a guy off the street. They then cut him and signed Donovan Smith or whatever. So they've gone through 4 or 5 different tackles just this season on the left side of the line to try to figure out how to protect Mahomes. And so I see what you're saying. Like, yes, from a physical numbers perspective, and again, maybe this is me being a Jalen Hurts guy and like being all 100% bought into stats don't equal your actual output as a quarterback. But I honestly think this is one of his more impressive seasons from an actual like getting into where they are standpoint. Because you guys are absolutely right. Their defense was great this year from an eye test standpoint. They kept them in a lot of games. You said it in the pre-show, Aaron. They blocked a kick for the Broncos in a game. They came up time and time again. It seemed like with timely 3rd and 4th down stops, including in the playoffs just last week. And they don't necessarily have to do with blitzing, even though Spags is the 5th highest blitzer. It was a really impressive season for them to go 15-1. And
we weren't necessarily saying that like this isn't like definitely,
I know.
like not one of his most impressive seasons. I would say arguably is just because of everything that you just stated happened
Right.
for sure. Because like even though I had them going to the Super Bowl, still I didn't have them only losing one game.
Mhm.
So
No, none of us did. Not even Mr. Five teams are only going to lose less than 3 games, Eric. Which ironically, 4 teams lost 3 games or less. So you were almost really close. The only problem is that you got all 5 teams wrong. So, and I'm pretty sure actually the 3 teams that you had with the best record in the league didn't even make the playoffs. I'm pretty sure it was the Niners, the Seahawks, and the Bengals.
correct.
I think I had the Ravens in there.
I think they might have been your 4th best team.
Yeah, because no.
You had the Bengals going 15-2 and winning the division. I remember that vividly.
You had the Ravens not making the playoffs.
No, I did.
Why are we
No,
doing
no,
this?
no.
I have
Alex,
a picture of it. He sent us a picture of this. I'm pulling it up right now.
Alex, didn't you have the Browns making the playoffs over the Ravens?
Not over the Ravens. I had them winning the division over the Ravens. I still had the Ravens in the playoffs. Okay. And what did we talk about that? I told you. I said it was because of what? Because I thought that Deshaun Watson would get hurt, which he did, and that Jameis would take over, which he didn't. So
He did for like 2 games.
He did. He balled out for a couple games, but unfortunately, it was not enough. Not enough, young one. Okay, I think I got Eric's ones here. Let me see.
Which day was that?
I don't know. I just went back through the stuff. Okay, so no, you did have the Ravens at 15-2 as well. You're right.
Yeah, because you were like, how do you have both of them?
You had the Dolphins at 14-3.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, you did have the Buffalo Bills at 11-6.
It's all right. I didn't. I had
That's
the
pretty close.
Bills potentially, I had the Bills having a down year, so that was my bad take for the year.
Oh, Eric's is real bad, actually.
What's my bad take on there? I need
Cincinnati 15-2, Miami 14-3, Dallas 13-4, Washington 5-11.
Okay. Well, I guess you two did.
Well, I think I still had Washington finishing last in the division, so
And
or
then you had the Seahawks at 14-3
crazy.
as the 5 seed because the Niners went 15-2. And then you had the Bears at 11-6, which I did too. I'm not knocking you for that one. We were on the same page there.
I wasn't.
You had the Packers at 6-11, which again on the same page as you there. You had the Chargers winning 12 games, the Chiefs only winning 12. You had the Jaguars winning 9. That feels bad.
Feels real bad.
That feels real bad. But you did have the Steelers winning 10. So I guess you were all over the place. And actually, I think I sent the stats on this the other day. We were all over the place. The only people that really got anything right is that Aaron, preseason, you took the Chiefs. Alex, preseason, you took the Eagles. Eric didn't take anybody.
I didn't?
I think you took the Browns.
No, I did not.
To beat the Texans.
Well,
And then
yeah,
the Texans to win the Super Bowl, I think.
no, he took the Browns to beat the Texans to beat the Browns and the Chiefs being the play or being the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, he had.
Even though he didn't have
Hold
one.
up, hold up. I have his playoffs here.
From preseason?
Yep. Yep.
No,
I do.
You
Swear to
lying.
God. You had the Bengals as the 1 seed. You had the Ravens upsetting the Chargers in the 5-4 matchup. The Texans beating the Chiefs in the 3-6 matchup. The Dolphins beating the Bills in the 2-7 matchup. You then had the Bengals beating the Ravens in the 1-5 matchup, and the Dolphins beating the Texans in the 2-3 matchup. And then you had the Bengals beating the Dolphins to go to the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, I see it.
And then you had the Cardinals lose to the Cowboys. You had the Eagles beat the Bears, and the Seahawks beat the Bucks.
Bucks.
Then you had the Eagles lose to the Niners, and the Seahawks lose to the Cowboys, and then the Seahawks lose to the Niners, and the Niners beat the Bengals. So you're the Niners as a Super Bowl champion.
You
Didn't
know
put
Your
the
what?
final
Lions in there.
four. Your final four didn't make the playoffs.
Oof. Oof.
You know what?
Out of your final 8, 5 didn't make the playoffs.
That was my heart playoff prediction.
Only 2 hard-head playoff picks in the playoffs. Goodness gracious. Now, that being said, we did do those. We did them offline. Aaron had the Broncos in one of them winning. That was his heart one, clearly. His head one, he also weirdly had the Broncos, I think, still winning a game against the
Correct.
Bills. So clearly he was still working off of his heart there. I meanwhile had the Chargers playing the Eagles. So and I was halfway there. Whoa, living on a prayer.
But how did the rest of my picks go? Decently well,
They went decently well.
except for the Lions.
Yeah, I
obviously.
think when we finished the season for the picks that we did, you ended up a little ahead. Also, funny story, viewers, we do like a pick'em league with us and some other people from a fantasy football league and family and whatnot.
Yeah, I forgot to
sent
do that.
Aaron the invite to it, and he never joined it. And all year, I didn't know this. So I'm sitting here thinking he's doing these things with us, and I'm like, yeah, I'm kicking your ass because I don't see his name above me. I don't look at people below me. I didn't know where Eric was. And so I said, I don't look at people below me in the standings. I only look up. And so,
okay.
Me just sitting there with a big fat goose egg,
yeah,
big
I
fat
know he wasn't
donut.
big, but he did pretty well. He's a couple picks behind me for the full season, but
I missed a couple weeks.
I was talking about me with the big fat goose egg,
oh yeah,
because I didn't pick anything.
so
Didn't know it was a thing.
so we talked about the Chiefs. We gave them their 15 minutes of fame. Let's flip it, okay? And
And we're
Eric,
gonna be on the Eagles for an hour.
Eagles for an
Buck-
hour. Which, by the way,
buckle in, baby.
did you remember we gave our playoff prediction that you were talking about, like the one we did recently?
Mhm.
I completely forgot who I chose for my Super Bowl champion, and I just saw who it was.
didn't you take the Bills?
Mm-mm.
No, I gotta go look at this one now. Oh, I do remember it. And you're an idiot.
No, what? Okay, I'm an idiot.
Who do you pick? I don't remember this.
Pick the Chargers over the Bucks. Is
Oh dear God.
No, I didn't. Hold on.
that not yours? Oh wait, no, it wasn't.
Is this in the Pick'em League?
Oh wait, no, wait, yeah, you took Eagles Bills in the one that we did pre playoff.
Yeah, pre-playoff. I took the Eagles as champions.
Honestly, you
I
only missed
remember-
2 of those picks, 3 of those picks, I guess, because of the Bill one. But
Yeah.
if you would have picked the Commanders over the Lions, you would have had the entire NFC right. I am mad at you.
That was close. I forgot about that.
Hey, and you saw my message the other day in our college football dynasty. I told you, I said, I'm going to treat the Chiefs fans like trash and the Eagles fans, like my brethren. And what did I do? I treated you kindly, as rightfully so. For those that don't know, Eric this season drafted Saquon Barkley in 5 of his fantasy football leagues. How many championships did you win?
2.
2. You got 2 championships.
Yeah,
For the those are my first 2 championships.
mad
over,
about it.
I don't know how many.
At least 10 with us. But what did you say?
What
I
did I
whooped-
say?
I
Yeah.
whooped the number 1 seed. That's why he's mad about it.
You did not whoop me. You beat me by like less than 30 points.
Eric did win.
Hey,
You
and
did a
that was
good
an
job.
L,
And
Aaron.
the sad thing is if I would have beat you, I would have beat Devin too because I cooked him for points wise when I beat Chris in the 3rd place game.
Meanwhile, I didn't have a single game in the toilet bowl or in the playoffs because for
Which
some
was
reason,
weird.
The way
You
that
had
our,
to fi-
our season was
you-
set up, only 5
'Cause
teams made the playoffs.
you
out
have
of
to
8,
fix
and I was in
that.
6th.
Because you finished what, 6th?
I finished 6th. Don't know what happened there. Don't know what was going on. I thought 6 teams made the playoffs. This year I fixed it though. We'll be going to 6 teams and with our 10-team league. So, but Aaron, Eagles,
Mm-hmm.
What did they do well this year, man?
They got Saquon Barkley. That's what they did well this year.
Yeah, they did.
And nobody go back and look at the tapes on what Alex said about Saquon Barkley.
Oh, really?
It wasn't good.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't
It
bad.
wasn't bad. You had your concerns.
I had it was all injury concerns.
Yes.
Which-
Yeah, you said you didn't want him rushing more than like 18 times a game
Correct.
until he
Because
was rushing 26 times a game and he was getting 5 touchdowns a game and 200 yards.
Hey, I was wrong. I'm okay to say that. I'm absolutely okay to say I was wrong about what.
To be fair, I kind of agreed though. Like I still thought that like more so like 2022 was his magic number, not so much like 15 to 16.
Well, I said 18 carries, and I said like 22
Yeah.
total touches. So like I was thinking he would be more involved in the pass game.
Hmm.
I thought he was going to be closer to 4 to 6 catches a game, not like 2 to 3 a game. But
Yeah, but who would have thought that Saquon getting traded to the Eagles, which I mean, kind of had a down year with the Giants, which granted, like the Giants weren't the best team, but then typically it doesn't happen for you to come to a new team and have the best year of your career. It just I don't think
Oh.
I think that took everyone by shock.
oh, absolutely, and it shows as well with the NFL awards, right? And so like
Mhm.
we had 5 major acquisitions this offseason, being the first one, of course, the one that we're talking about, Saquon Barkley, who is an MVP candidate and an Offensive Player of the Year finalist. We're talking about Zach Bond, Defensive Player of the Year finalist, and he's on like $1 million deal,
Who won that again?
huh?
Who won the defensive player of the year again? I forgot.
He won the Fox Defensive Player of the Year. That's not the NFL Honors Award, okay?
Yeah, we don't count those.
Yeah, Fox. There's a lot of things Fox is doing right now that we don't agree with. So let's just.
Well, we don't also sometimes agree with the NFL honors. So
True.
I'm not going to argue that point either. But either way, say Sean Barkley should be MVP. That's what we're going to say here. Um, but either way, and then going past that though, Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell, the first and second round draft picks of the Eagles, both defensive rookie of the year candidates, and then Vic Fangio, assistant coach of the year candidate. Like 5 major acquisitions, and all 5 played massive roles in what our team has been able to do. Saquon with the 2,000 yards, Zach Bond. I think he had 5 forced fumbles this year, 5.5 sacks, 3 picks, and had over 150 tackles. Like absolutely absurd numbers from a guy that had never been a starter before. Quinion Mitchell was the best corner in the league. Fuck Patrick Surtain, that's one. Yeah, no, I said it. Quinion Mitchell was the best corner in the league. He had the yes he was. He allowed the lowest quarterback rating amongst corners. What do you mean? What do you mean? At 21 years old, Quinion Mitchell is better than 25-year-old Patrick Surtain the second. Get out of here. Yes.
I
And
did
next
draft
year,
him,
when he gives
though.
up 4 total catches across the entire league in the entire season, en route to our back-to-back titles. We'll get to that here in a second.
And who drafted him?
The Eagles.
No, I did. I
Oh,
drafted
in our
him.
dynasty. The only reason I let you draft him is because I already had 5 other Eagles. I was like, I can't do what Braden's doing and have 9 Broncos. So,
Maybe that's why he finished 6th.
but I'm sorry. Who did I draft from the Eagles? N'Kobe Dean and Zach Bond, AJ Brown. Oh, those guys are pretty good. Those guys are pretty good.
you still didn't have the number one.
Didn't have the
No, I
number
didn't.
one.
You had Saquon above and beyond. You did great. You did a great job, buddy. But watch out. I'm coming for you, okay? I'm coming for you. You
You
saw
do
how
that.
young my team was, and all those players hit. All of my young players hit. It was absurd.
Eric, what was that thing that he said earlier about not looking below him?
Yeah, I don't look below me because there's no one above me.
Top 2, and I'm not 2.
Where are you looking then? I don't know, but it's not here. Either way, it is what it is. Back to the topic at hand. Eric, do you have anything to add about these teams and their flowers?
No, I think everyone's kind of gotten everything. I mean, Jalen Carter stepped up a lot this year.
Jalen Carter played 91% of the defensive snaps this year.
He has. Let me get because I know the talent was always there. I think he's matured. He's more knowledgeable. How am I trying to say this?
He's a second year player now.
He knows he's learned from his mistakes. I mean, he really has.
I
He
mean,
has.
15-yard penalty for pushing Tyler Biadasz in the face doesn't tell me that he's learned from his mistakes.
Okay, whatever. He deserves it.
We can give Sirianni his flowers, especially because of the year before.
There's some good ones. That's a good one.
Just
Sirianni.
Yeah,
I'm still waiting for one.
Just because of the, obviously all the talk from back when they made the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and like the infamous like you like that Chiefs fans and that whole thing, and obviously like getting flamed for that, and then all of the talking about like him and Jalen not getting along and whatever that whole thing was. But
week 6, John with Philly fans on the sideline after beating the Cleveland Browns, the woeful Cleveland Browns. That was important to him, was to argue with the fans on the sideline. But since that moment, he shaved his head and he's been maybe the best coach in the league. Like,
shout out AJ Brown for reading a book on the sideline. We love that for you.
Shout out to AJ Brown. I don't give a shit if AJ was, by the way, I need a minute. I do not care what the hell any player is doing on the sideline as long as it is not negatively impacting the team. And from everyone around him, there was not a single thing that AJ Brown was doing that was fucking negatively impacting that team.
That's true.
The fact that that was even a talking point for multiple days was absurd.
Well, we talked about that, and over the last couple of weeks, I've been really upset with the discourse around the Eagles because it's either been Jalen's not good enough, AJ Brown's a distraction, or Nick Sirianni's this, Nick Sirianni's that, and this just never been about the actual on-field work. It's all conjecture and rhetoric. That's all it is that we don't think that Jalen Hurts can throw the football. And then when a minute ago, I was like, I'm waiting for you guys to give me one person's flowers. It was Jalen. And I'm still waiting on Jalen's flowers. I'm still waiting on him.
He's got to prove that to me this
what
weekend.
What do I need to give him his flowers for? I've always given him his flowers.
I mean, we're talking about the other people for this season. I mean, if we're giving people their flowers, Eric, hold on. What do you mean?
I'll give him a flower.
Hold on. I want to know what the problem is.
What my problem with Jalen?
Yeah.
He has not shown me he can throw the ball down the field efficiently.
Actually, he's one of the best deep ball throwers. He actually can't throw over the middle of the field.
He's just not good when he's pressured this year.
Which most quarterbacks aren't.
Right, but he's 37 of 37 in most categories.
He's 11th in completion percentage at 69, right under 69%. He's 6th in yards per attempt. He's 32nd of 37 QBs in yards per attempt when pressured.
So
when pressured, sure, but
that's what I'm talking about. Just being pressured. Like that's my only knock on him is when he's pressured. His success rate is 37 of 37. His sack rate is 33 of 37. His yards per attempt is 32 of 37. His EPA attempt is 37 of 37.
Again, that EPA is a weird stat for me because it also, like specifically EPA, because it's involved with when you pass in the situation in which you pass in. And so because of the fact that the Eagles are typically in the lead, they're not throwing the ball in typical pass situations. So estimated passing yards per attempt, EPA, that's always going to be a little bit lower.
Well, my only thing is, and the only reason I bring that up is because he was top 10 in all those categories last season. That's it.
But what happened last season?
Well, I mean, he didn't make it to the Super Bowl, but
didn't make it to the Super Bowl, didn't make it out of the first round of the playoffs.
And that's kind of, I don't know. I feel like that's why I don't give him his flowers. I don't,
He had 15 interceptions last year. Like,
because let me just ask you this.
Mhm.
Take Saquon out of the equation.
Mhm.
The way Jalen played this year, would he
Mhm.
got you to the Super Bowl?
Yep.
No, he would not.
Yeah, he would have because he
No,
did
he
the
would
exact
not.
same thing with Miles Sanders 2 years ago. Now, the one thing with Saquon that I wouldn't be able to replicate off the field, like from a non-stat standpoint, not playing like when the ball is snapped versus any other time in the game, Saquon, the part that has been so instrumental for having Saquon is the leadership aspect. Like,
Mhm.
and I think it's just because he is 30 years old. He's one of the oldest players on our team. And so when you bring in a player that of that age and that caliber, which granted when he came into the league he was wise beyond his years, but adding that to the conversation for Jalen, all three of Saquon's long touchdown runs were audibles from Jalen in the playoffs here. All three of them, the last two games. The reason that we get into the plays that Saquon is successful in is because of Jalen. I
Even
can
the one,
also like I love Jason Kelsey to death. I can argue that because last year Kelsey and Jalen were both calling protections, it created confusion. And they weren't in agreement on those calls. Cam doesn't call any protections. Landon doesn't call any protections. It's all called by Jalen now.
That's a good point.
even
And
though,
so,
even when Saquon was lined up on the wrong side, was that
yeah,
an audible?
I mean, that could be them also doing that can also be emotion though to
I just thought
determine
it was funny.
where the key read is.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, he has worked incredibly hard to limit mistakes for the team. He has 4 interceptions on the season, and 2 of them came in week 1. And those 2 interceptions, if I remember correctly, came in the first half of that game in week 1. So then over the other 12 games that he played all season, or 13 games, whatever he played all season, and the playoffs, he's thrown 2 more interceptions, had 2 fumbles. He is taking care of the ball. We are not asking him to throw as much, sure. But like at the same time, it's not Jimmy Garoppolo 7 throws in the NFC Championship game because we don't trust him. It is we don't need to pass the football because we have Saquon Barkley. And
But
because Jalen is so electric in the run game himself, and Kenny Gainwell is still averaging 5 yards a game or 5 yards a carry, and hell, even Will Shipley can break it off for 65 yards on you.
true. But
So
now
yes,
you're
I think without Saquon, but a replacement level back, if it was DeAndre Swift, I think we could get there because he showed he could do it 2 years ago with
yeah.
a lesser defense and the same offense.
But now you're facing a team where I feel like Jalen will have to show that he can throw.
Well, I think that's a good segue into the actual game, my friend. You are right. I think you're right too. At first, I was like, I don't necessarily know if that's the case because the Chiefs have been susceptible to the pass game, but part of that was also their cornerback, not Josh Williams, the other guy that just came back, Jalen Watson. Jalen Watson just came back from a broken ankle or dislocated ankle, whichever one it was, and for their defense, while he was out, they were Chamari Connors and the other name I just said. Anybody remember the Joshua Williams? Those two guys were being eaten alive through the Y position because Trent
Mhm.
McDuffie was on the X. And so now that they've kind of steadied that with Jalen Watkins over there or Watson, or I'm not sure, but the second corner, they've got a little bit better in the pass game. But so we've already talked about the pass stats. Eagles, you said all the things that you wanted to say. However, I want to put out a few points here. The the Eagles had 448 pass attempts this year as a team. That's not just Jalen stats. That's with Tanner McKee playing against the Giants, and that's with Kenny Pickett playing Week 16 against the Cowboys. Um, that's 30 less than the next lowest team, which ironically was the Ravens. And I don't I don't think we're talking about how the Ravens can't throw the football. Now, granted, they were 30th in pass yards, but they were 10th in passing touchdowns. So that tells me that they're moving the ball in some capacity. And we know that because they have a 2,000-yard rusher, which no other team except, again, the Ravens had. Ironic that the Ravens had the least amount of pass attempts, similar to the Eagles, and had the second, most rushing yards out of their running back to the Eagles. Maybe a correlation there, maybe. But, I digress. Completion percentage was 8th in the league. They were tied for 3rd in interceptions. Quarterback rating was 6th best in the league. They were tied for 3rd in the league with explosive pass plays, which were 40 yards or more. And they were 19th with big plays. So that's where there is a discrepancy, is that when they get big plays, they get big plays. They're not getting, 20, 30-yard gains. When you get over 20 yards, you're essentially going to be getting the big play, or you're not in line, basically. It's a lot of shorter stuff or deep stuff. While with the rushing attempts, the Eagles had 621 rushing attempts this season. To put that in perspective, second place was at 554.
Oof.
So 70 more rush attempts than every other team.
Who was number 2? Baltimore?
Baltimore was number 2. Man, it's almost, again, like these stats correlate. Yards per carry, they were 5th with 4.9 a game. They had over 3,000 rushing yards, which they're one of the only 2 teams in NFL history to have 3,000 passing yards and 3,000 rushing yards in the same season, with 20 touchdowns in both locations, both in passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns. They had 29 rushing touchdowns, which was second in the league only to the Bills. The Bills had 32. Big runs, they had 25 of those. And explosive runs, they had 7, which was the most in the league. So again, it's just showing an explosive offense. 26% of their runs went for first downs this year. So when they ran the ball, one in every 4 times, they were getting a first down. To me, that seems like we may just need to run the ball every single play and not punt. That gives us a first down every play and a touchdown every drive. Had 164 rushing first downs, which was the first in the league. Third down offense, they were the 5th best in conversion. Total conversions, sorry. And in percentage, they were, I have it here somewhere. Sorry, maybe I don't. But they had the second most total third downs at 235. The Chiefs had 229, by the way. Now, the Chiefs converted about 15 more of those. They were the number 1 third down team, so that's going to be a really important part of the Eagles' defense, is getting them off the field on third down. However, the Eagles on third downs gave up the 3rd fewest conversions at 75 for for a 35% conversion rate, which was 3rd in the league. So again, best third down defense going against the best third down offense. This is a styles makes fights game, guys. What do you think? Again, I'll stop here because I gave you a lot of stats there. I broke down a lot of shit. I know, but I want to hear what you have to think here about what I have said so far, because again, I don't want to just talk at you.
Aaron?
You got this. You can go
No,
first.
you got it. I went first last time.
So what exactly you wanted me to touch on in terms of what I think?
I mean, I know that was just all the Eagles stats. You go to the Chiefs stats, though, their offense, like Eric said, has been down this year, but also like sneaky not down. They were 9th in touchdown passes at 26. They had 600 pass attempts. They were basically the foil of the Eagles. So the Eagles had 600 rushing attempts. The Chiefs had 600 pass attempts. Meanwhile, the Chiefs actually had a lower quarterback rating at 93 points, 93.1, which was middle of the pack, 16th. Explosive plays, they only had 4, which are the 40-yard plays. The big plays are 42. They had less than the Eagles did. So again, not a big play offense. They're going to dink and dunk and try to get the ball down the field, but be effective with it, which also speaks to their third downs. Again, 7th most in the league, 229, but they converted the most. Additionally, they went for it on 4th down, almost the least. They went for it 17 times, which was 28th in the league, versus the Eagles, who went for it 27 times, which was 10th in the league. The difference is that they converted 12 of 17 times, as opposed to the Eagles went 19 for 27. So, again, these are just their offenses.
Yeah.
Did you know the Chiefs actually had a better defense yards per carry in the regular season than the Eagles did?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
They actually averaged 4.1 yards per carry in the regular season, which was tied for fifth best in the league, which the Eagles were at 4.3.
So just slightly better than the Eagles, but still better.
And the reason why they weren't eaten alive with rushing yards in the season is because of the fact that their defense was so good in critical moments. But the problem that they actually had on their defense,
It wasn't the red zone defense was good. The problem that they had was third down itself. So they're the best third down offensive team. They're one of the worst third down defensive teams.
and so
They forced 215 third downs. So about the same amount that they had on offense. But they also allowed 93 conversions, which was tied for the 26th most. Not 26th most, sorry. Sixth most, however you want to look at it. It was 26th in the league. So seventh most. Was that the math there? Yeah. And so they give up a conversion rate of 43%.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm giving you these stats here from regular season numbers. My next page, aka slide that I have,
Jesus.
is their playoff trends. So before I get there, do those stats kind of speak to the seasons that you saw, or are you surprised by anything there?
No, that
Caught off guard?
I think that checks out
Okay.
quite
Eric?
quite a bit for me.
Yeah. Same.
Okay. So then we move into the playoffs because, Chiefs fans love to tell me that, game doesn't
But
start until the playoffs, right? The season doesn't start.
playoff Pat.
Yeah, playoff Pat. It doesn't matter if you do it in the regular season. What do you do in the playoffs? Because we've won 9 straight games in the playoffs.
That was playoff. Wilson.
This is not a kid-friendly show. So if there's any kids watching, I'm sorry, but I'm also not because again, not a kid-friendly show. Let me tell you what's going on here. And granted, the Chiefs have played 2 games. The Eagles have played 3 games. So these stats from the holistic perspective are going to be a little skewed, but I can give you both the total number and the per game number.
so the Chiefs
In 2 games, how many yards do you think they've thrown for?
Average or total?
total.
Or average. I'll let you do either way. I can extrapolate for 2 games.
Like 200 yards,
Yeah, 230 yards.
A game
Yeah.
or total?
180.
It's
211 a game,
which is only 50 more than the Eagles average per game.
That's close.
and I've been told that Jalen Hurts, we can't trust him to win a playoff game because he doesn't throw the ball enough. Rushing yards. Do you know how many rushing yards the Chiefs have?
A game.
A game,
Don't care.
probably
It's 2 games.
120.
A game?
I'm
Yeah.
gonna go around like 80.
Okay.
You'd
So
be a
like
lot closer.
78.
92 a game. That's what they average.
The Eagles average
Okay. That is even. That's just dirty. You can't even count. Take the Washington game out.
You want me to take the Washington game out? I have to do the numbers real quick for you. Hold on. Let me take the Washington game out for you, big dog. I got you. You give me 10 seconds here. This is great live TV, but let me give it to you. Okay. So you want me to take the Washington game out, right? That's what you told me to do?
Yeah.
Okay. So this postseason, just this postseason, I got to do this a different way because
Oh dear.
because it wasn't just Saquon that ran in that game. It was
It was everyone, and
everybody.
everyone had a big game.
Okay. So somebody can calculate for me real quick. Why does it do this? Okay, so in the Packers game, the Eagles ran for 169 yards. I guess you don't need a calculator, and it's again 2 numbers. And then in the Rams game, they ran for 285 yards. And so, you're right. I can go ahead and take the Washington game out, even though
What did you guys even do for the Washington game? I'm just
for the
curious.
Washington game,
Was it
we ran
300?
for 229. So it was about on par of what we did in the Rams game. So it feels like the outlier there is actually the Green Bay game where we only ran for 170. But again,
Only.
Well, the 285 was basically what, 70% Saquon, 30% Jalen?
it was 205 for Saquon, and then
Yeah.
or
And the
was it
rest-
205 for Saquon in that
It's
game?
something like that. It's something like that.
It's right here. I mean, I have it right here. I can just. It was 205.
Yeah.
Um,
Because the Washington game, I feel like you guys went up like 2 touchdowns and he really didn't come back in.
no, we let him sit. He only had 13 carries in that game, but still had
Yeah.
170 yards.
Yeah.
But no, he 26 carries, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns in that game. So what I'm saying is, you want me to take out that one game? That's totally fine. It was part of the make of the team, though. Like that was
Mhm.
inside of the
Yeah.
realm of what the team does. Really, the only run I would take away from that is the 60, 70 yards, Will Shipley run, because that probably wouldn't happen. But if Will Shipley can do it, Saquon can clearly do it. So, but again, they're averaging over 200 yards a game rushing the ball.
And
Yes.
the other thing of that is that the
Chiefs
Chiefs
haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher in the last. I think it was. I think I heard the stat. It was 38 postseason games,
Something like that.
or maybe it's the last 38 overall games. Either way, like during this run, they haven't given up a 100-yard running back rusher. Lamar had 100 yards in week 1, but an actual running back, the closest they got was, I think it was Mixon in the divisional game. He was like 88. And then it was 85 for James Cook last week. However, as a team, the Chiefs give up 148 yards a game rushing
which is 7th.
amongst the playoff teams. So basically middle of the pack.
They give up 241 passing yards a game. So for a
Total of almost 400 yards of offense in the playoffs. Again, skewed because they played 2 games. But I would also argue that first game was a defensive game. So the fact that you're giving up 400 yards a game feels a little
not good. Also an interesting fact about the Chiefs.
under Spags, they don't force a lot of turnovers. This year they've forced
11 turnovers.
last year they forced 8. 2 years ago they forced 13. So they're not a big turnover team, but
They
Just a big blitzing team.
it's a big blitzing team. They cause you to get, but they
also don't have a bunch of sacks.
they only have 39 sacks, which is actually less than the Eagles have. And the Eagles are a non-blitzing team at all. They're
Right,
the least.
just-
They blitz 19% of the time, which is the least amount in the league. Spags blitzes 36% of the time, which is the 5th most. So
Right. Just effective pressuring, though.
correct.
Also, since we're on turnovers,
The Eagles haven't had a turnover that is they're like in the playoffs. They're 10-0. They're the first team in NFL history to get to the Super Bowl with a plus 10 turnover margin and 0 turnovers in the playoffs.
See, and now that you said that, they're going to come out like first or second drive and have a fucking turnover. That's 2.
That's actually 3.
3, sorry.
Additionally, they've had 3+ turnovers in all 3 of their playoff games, which I've been told is unsustainable and that the Chiefs won't do that. Yet Patrick Mahomes, in 3 of his 5 Super Bowls, 2 of his 4 Super Bowls, I'm counting this one already, has had 2 or more turnovers in each of them. So Patrick Mahomes, sneakily, isn't great in the Super Bowl. He's great at the end of games. Also, all time in playoff games, if you do
Speak
exactly
your mind,
that,
Eric. Speak your mind, Eric.
I see where he's going with that. Like, because, Jalen Hurts was the better quarterback, but yeah, who did win that game?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not bringing up the 2022 Super Bowl at all. 9 of our 11 starters are different on defense this year. So,
It's the Philadelphia Bull Eagles.
yeah, roll tide, baby.
But the thing is,
Philadelphia Bull Eagles, roll tide.
you're bringing up all these stats about the Chiefs, about the regular season and their postseason, and how they're so underneath the Eagles, but yet they only lost one game.
On the contrary, I'm not saying that they're that much lower than the Eagles at all. I'm just saying that the way that I've heard this conversation and it be there, it's almost been like a formality that this is a Chiefs three-peat.
Well, the thing is,
That
I mean,
the game has already been played, and that it doesn't matter who the Eagles are, and that Jalen Hurts is not a good quarterback, and it all matters about what Saquon Barkley does, and that it doesn't matter that we had the best defense in the league all year, and then on artificial turf we gave up 7 less points a game. We had 5 games on artificial turf than we gave up in any other game on non-artificial turf, and this game is being played on synthetic turf. We're 5-0 this year on synthetic turf. They're 4-1, which granted they're still good, but they lost one. We've won a game in this stadium this year already. In a game we didn't play great in. All I'm saying is that this game is a lot closer than people want to give it credit for, and they want to sully the name of a good quarterback, Jalen Hurts, just because of the fact that he doesn't do it the way that you want him to do it. I'm sorry. When's the last time that we said, "Oh, I want my quarterback to throw more and throw more picks"? Or hear me out. Is this exactly the way that Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl in 2013, Eric?
why we gotta bring that up?
Well, that's the crowning achievement of your franchise, man. But like, you hear what I'm saying? In 2013, 2014, Russell Wilson won a championship with basically the identical model. An incredible secondary, a good start, like good but not elite defensive line, with a good player, Cliff Averill, and on that team, Jalen Carter on this team. A good but not excellent top elite tier quarterback that potentially could be elite tier if you want him to, but he can hurt you still. He burns 50% of the food he makes, so maybe only have him make half the food, right?
See, but you said that you just said that. You said the key word right there. Your quarterback could hurt you.
Patrick Mahomes could hurt.
You
Lamar Jackson has hurt the Ravens 5 out of the 7 years he's been in the league.
In big moments, when has Patrick Mahomes hurt the Chiefs?
I mean, recently, I can't think of one, to be completely honest with you.
That's where I'm at on it. Like, I'm not like completely like doing what people are doing, like, you know, widening the gap of like, oh, it's gonna be like Chiefs is completely like gonna blow the Eagles out. No, to me, it's going to be close. It's gonna be down to the wire. But to me, when I look at it, it's like,
well, the Chiefs haven't blown anyone out all year, so
no, they haven't.
The last thing that I expect to happen.
Well, true, but like what
also
he's
won
trying to
17
say.
consecutive one-possession games, which feels like that's 4 more, by the way, than the previous record of consecutive one-possession games. That feels like that's about to, you know, level out to the mean, regress to the mean. There we go.
Yeah.
So
I don't
what were you
know.
saying?
I don't know. When I see both teams, I mean, I have my winner, but like when I see both teams, like they're that one thing where, what is one thing that could hurt you? And for me, it's Jalen on the Eagles. And when I look at the Chiefs, I'm like,
It's their offensive line.
but
It's their secondary.
Yeah, their offensive. Nah, not really their secondary.
It is. It's
specifically
their slot.
I could say their offensive line, but still, he finds a way to get it down the field. Like,
when has he been asked to do that in this playoffs?
I'm trying to think.
They were down 22-21 in the third quarter to the Bills. Then they took the lead 29 to
Mhm.
22. Then they were tied, and then he went down and got a field goal with I think it was 8 minutes left.
No, the field goal
Was
was
it
with
4?
it was like 3 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Because then the Bills had a 3-and-out, and then there was like a minute 58 left on the
Mhm.
clock.
I thought they had more than a 3-and-out.
No, when the Bills got the ball last, they went 3-and-out. I'm almost positive.
Are you? They had 6 plays.
No.
They did have
But
6 plays
it was 3.5
because
minutes left. Still.
they got because they ended up getting a down. Yeah.
Still, to me, going down the field tied isn't the same as going down the field losing. Also,
But they also don't put themselves in a position where they have to come back.
I don't think that's the case. They almost lost to the Broncos. They almost lost to the Panthers. They almost lost to the Chargers twice. They almost
The
lost
Ravens.
to the Raiders.
The
They almost
Ravens.
lost to the Falcons. They almost lost to the Ravens. No, I'm not even going to say the Ravens because they had to get a touchdown and the 2-point conversion to win it or kick an extra point to force overtime. That is what it is. The Bucks, though, not going for 2 with no time left on the clock.
Did you say the Bengals? Wasn't the Bengals one?
Bengals was another one they had to escape with the last second win.
Well, we can almost a lot of things, and if we almost everything, there'd be so many people that have trophies, man.
I understand that. I'm not taking away from what they did. What I'm saying,
Okay.
you're saying that they didn't put themselves in positions to be in to be in that position, and I'm saying that's false. They did. Now, the difference is that I would say they were really truly never in a position to lose outside of the Broncos game.
Yeah.
Like the Broncos game, the field goal getting blocked is the one thing where I'm like, that's 100% like you have to be 100% right, or it's you're not right, right? Like
Yeah, I
there's
get
no
you.
gray
Yeah.
area in a field goal block. That was one that they 100% went and stole a win.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to say it was luck, that's fine. I won't have you say it's luck. I know, Aaron, you feel like it was pretty fucking lucky. But and I
Well, it
think that's
was
great.
lucky.
But
Or unlucky, depending on your perspective.
right. But like in the Bengals game, they were tied when the pass interference occurred, and it was pass interference.
It was passive interference. It was a dumb rookie move from that.
Cameron Britt Taylor, yeah.
Yeah, it was just he'll learn.
Yeah. Isaiah Likely, again, I'm not going to count that because they had to catch it and then do something else.
Yeah, they had to
Either
get a
win
2 point.
it or to force.
Yeah.
I'm getting the rest of their schedule just so we can, because again, they have 17 consecutive 1-score wins. Here we go. Chiefs. The next game that they had was the Falcons, which was a 5-point win, and I think something weird happened with Bijan at the goal line there.
Yeah,
but
they could have easily won, but they wanted to just like
they were
strong
throwing it
left.
instead of it.
No, they didn't even throw it. They were just strong left or strong right. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Okay.
You don't remember that? And they got ate up in the backfield every single time. I'm like, okay, we're gonna
Again,
still keep running it.
I remember they had a chance to do something, but
Yeah.
they screwed it up on their end. But again, the
Yes.
Chiefs would have had an opportunity to go down the field. There was still time left.
Yes, correct.
Chargers 17-10. That felt like it was a really close game, but that was the game that they lost Rashee Rice in. And so that makes sense that game was an off game. They beat the Saints by 13. They beat the Niners by 10. The Raiders game was 27-20. That was the one at the Raiders. That one they handled.
That was the one. That was the one
where what's
they-
his
they-
name looked the other way.
Aiden O'Connell when they hiked the ball. Like there was
That wasn't that one. That was the one at the Chiefs later.
because
Oh,
like
I thought
there
that
was
was that
the
Raiders.
call of whether or not it was what was it? They called it an illegal shift, but they were arguing it should have been a false start, which gave the Chiefs the ball, and then they went down and scored and won.
So this one was the Gardner Minshew game.
Ah,
Aiden didn't play in this one at all. And I just want to put this out. This was the AP's tagline from that game. Mahomes passes for 260 yards and 2 TDs. Chiefs beat Raiders 27-20 to improve to 7-0. Patrick Mahomes didn't make any mistakes Sunday, but one of his few errors could have cost the Chiefs the game. So directly
What
right
error
there
was that? What
something
error?
that he did.
What error?
He threw a pick in that game. Let me see. He needed his defense to rescue him, and it did. Kansas City kept the Raiders off the scoreboard even after facing first and goal at the 3-yard line, changing the tenor of the game and allowing the two-time defending champions to continue their domination in Las Vegas with 27-20 victory to remain undefeated. The sequence occurred late in the third quarter with the Chiefs clinging to a 17-13 lead. I'm trying to, it doesn't actually say what the hell happened. I think he threw an interception in their own red zone. It was 17-13. Let me find that. Interception. Yep. One play, -6 yards. Intercepted by Trayvon Moehrig at the Kansas City 15. Yep. That's exactly what it was. So he threw a own red zone interception in that game. I don't count that. That's third quarter. They handled the rest of that game perfectly fine. 30-24, Buccaneers. The Buccaneers game. Buccaneers should have gone for 2 at the end of regulation to try to win it. Instead, they didn't. Lost the coin toss, which again, your defense still has an opportunity to win the game, but they didn't. The issue there is that they didn't go for 2 on the road, which is typically what you're going to do in that scenario against a team that's better than you. You're trying to steal a win.
correct. Exactly.
Broncos game, 16-14 block field goal. They lost to the Bills, which was their only game that they lost on artificial turf and with the starters. Needed a field goal at the gun to beat the Panthers. Then it was the Aiden O'Connell dropped game, illegal snap procedure, but the clock wasn't running, so it wasn't a stopped play. It was a continuous play or whatever the reasoning was there. Chargers 19-17. That one I feel like they made a mistake. The Chargers did. Nope, bank shot field goal. That was the one that hit the uprights.
That was the dome.
That was the dong. 21-7 against the Browns. That's the Browns. 27-19 against the Texans. And remember, that was the game that Tank Dell got hurt.
The Texans just fell apart, dude.
They
game.
fell apart, but in that game specifically, Tank Dell scored that touchdown to pull it. I think that was the score that put them on that 16.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going to do. It felt like they were going to do more. They were down 16-17, and then they scored 3 points the rest of the game. And they even said it themselves. It was an emotional situation. But then Hollywood Brown came back, won 29-10 against the Steelers. He didn't play against the Broncos 38-0. And then we've seen the playoffs. What I say is to say all this. They weren't in high leverage situations very often this year.
No, they were not.
And the way that you said that their offense moved in conjunction with the Eagles' third down defense, I think there's a lot more here than just Patrick is better than Jalen. I'm not saying they're not. Patrick is here, 1,000%. Jalen is over here somewhere. Like, he's fucking in the wilderness trying to find out what exactly he needs to do to be as consistent as he can possibly be. And I love Jalen.
Trying to find the yellow brick road.
But
Right.
he can be there.
He can.
And
He absolutely can.
I need to see that at the Super Bowl. Because honestly, like, I love Saquon, and I think Saquon's gonna do Saquon, right? Like,
Yeah.
because no team has figured out how to freaking stop that man. I mean, I think 8 out of the 11 guys on the defensive side have touched Saquon, and he still goes for 78 yards. I mean, it's like, go ahead, try to tackle me. I'll let everybody try to touch me once, and then I'll burn everybody a little bit later.
Saquon's yards before contact would be good for 5th in the league in total yards. Saquon's yards before contact would be 5th in the league for total yards. He's like 1,500 and something before contact. And that was before the playoffs. I didn't even look that number up trying to do this today because I just know it's an absurd number.
I
Like
know.
he got,
I just
just off the top of my mind, he got 42 in the Washington game on the first play of the game. He wasn't touched on both of the touchdowns for the Rams game. So he probably added another 120, 140 in the
You
playoffs.
saying he wasn't diddled?
He was not diddied. No. So
I guess
but-
all I'm saying is that if for some reason the Chiefs can figure out how to slow down Saquon, because I don't think they'll completely slow him down, but if they figure out how to slow him down even a bit, I guess I want to see Jalen step up and help his running back and help his team to get the flow of get him going, but also him going by leading his team and performing of how we know that he can be.
Sure.
So
And
here's my. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Absolutely. Go ahead.
So say, so I was just gonna pose a question to you two to kind of go along with what Eric just said. In terms of slowing down Saquon, what do you think his magic number is to either win? Like, what does he need to get to for the Eagles to win, or what do the Chiefs need to hold him to for them to lose, or for the Chiefs to win? Is it over 100? Is it like 115? Like,
Eric.
For the Chiefs to win, I
What-
think
what-
I'm
do
going
they-
to
what do
answer
they
your
need?
question, by the way, Aaron. I have that as a part of my breakdown for the game here in just a
Okay.
second. So that's why I'm kicking it to Eric here. That's
Um, so for the Chiefs to win, I guess they'd have to hold Saquon, I feel like, to at least under 100 yards.
so fun fact, Saquon, when he has 22 touches or more in a game, is guaranteed 100 yards this season. He is also tied for the most 100-yard games in a single season at 14. This would break that record at 15 if he were able to get to 100 yards.
so
Just-
Eric, do you think he gets 100 yards?
I think so.
I mean, he's averaging
mean-
116, I think, a game right now for the season. So.
I mean, I have. Never mind. I'm not going to say it. Alex doesn't like me betting on his team.
I don't like you betting on my team. However, what have I always told you? If you've done it before and it's worked out for us, you're allowed to continue to do it. It's a
Well,
consistent.
I'm not
all-
saying it will or won't happen, but he's also never been in this situation before either.
No, but
no.
so I don't know if you guys heard because I have consumed so much media this week from Super Bowl Media Week, and one of the things that Nick said this last week that really resonated with me, and it kind of probably also helps posture it for the players in the locker room, is they've never been in a Super Bowl before, but they've been in big games before.
Mhm.
And he used Cooper DeJean for an example, so I'll do the same example. And he said, "You tell Cooper DeJean that Iowa State's not a big game, and he'll tell you you're wrong. It's the most important game of their season." And he was like, when he was at Mount Union, he was like, the IUP game that we would play every year. There was other games that may quote unquote be more important, but that was our rival. That was the most important game we played every year. You've played in big games. You just haven't played in this big game. Additionally, while he hasn't, while the defense is a lot of new faces, like CJ Gardner Johnson is one of the not new guys technically, and Jordan Davis is another one. But the rest of them, the entire linebacking core, brand new. Nolan Smith wasn't here. Josh Sweat was here, but he was a rotational guy. I guess Brandon Graham, because he's going to be playing now. Shout out Brandon Graham coming back in 10 weeks from a torn tricep injury. Insane, absolutely absurd. But we got Quinyon that's new, Cooper that's new. Slay was there too. Reed's a new starter. He wasn't a starter that year. It was CJ and it wasn't Malcolm still then. It was, I think we started Sydney that year. Cobe, obviously now, Oren Burks, Zach Bond, Jerry Trott, the kid, of course, Jalix Hunt. That kid's good. We didn't have Bryce Huff. We had Hassan Reddick. So I mean, the defense is different, but the offense is a lot of the same. The real difference there is Saquon and Cam. So everybody else was there 3 years ago. So the continuity on offense, I think, is going to help Saquon to move forward. And then I think the defense not having to have that memory of what Patrick did 2 years ago. I truly, honestly think as long as we can handle return motion and don't let Corn Dog score 4 touchdowns this year, we'll be okay. I really do. So, all right. Oh, and Aaron, I will answer your question about Saquon. Eric, you said 100 yards. That's what you said. Okay. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk to? Because we're getting long in the tooth here before we get to our predictions for the game.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't have
good.
anything.
Okay. Well, in perfect Maybe I'm the Crazy One podcast fashion, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. I'll write it down here. Okay. Eric, what number you want?
1.
Aaron, what number do you want?
You should know. 7.
All right, Eric, you're going first.
The number was 2. So you can
Get fucked.
You know
That's
how this
4.
works. You know how this works, right? You can give me as much or as little of the game that you want to give me. As typical for every other year, I will give you a play-by-play analysis of how the game will break down.
I know you will.
But you can do as much or as little as you want, man. But remember, I'm writing this down. You're being held accountable to it.
I am not going to go into detail as you are. That's just not. That's
Okay.
all you.
The people that watch the show know that that's not you. That's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm going to give you a score.
Okay.
32-31.
I hate you because that doesn't help me.
Eagles.
Cat.
You said Eagles?
Eagles.
I think it's the first time you've actually picked against the Chiefs too, right?
Cat.
Yes.
32.
Do you want me to give you my MVP?
Yes.
Saquon. MVP.
Saquon Barkley. Got it.
Make sure you tell your cat I said. Psst, 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 psst.
He's gonna have 285.
Oh,
Yeah, tell your cat I said. Psst, 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 psst.
Which one is that? Steaks. There you go, world. There's one of my cats. We got 4 of those guys around here somewhere.
He's gonna have 285 total yards.
Oh. Okay.
Total.
Yeah. How many of those are rushing?
185.
Okay.
So I have a whole bunch of stats here with Saquon specifically. So like 30 yards gets him the most yards in a single season, including playoffs, passing Terrell Davis. 65 yards, he actually passes 2,500 yards for the season, which is absurd. 103 yards, I think that's the right number. He breaks Brian Westbrook's record for postseason rushing yards. I want to make sure that that's framed correctly. That's for a career. He breaks the Eagles' career rushing yards record in a single playoff if he gets 103 yards. 165 yards breaks John Riggins' record of total rushing yards in a playoffs. And 205 would set the Eagles' rushing record, which he already owns anyway. So I'm okay with him getting to 185 because he hits all of those other numbers and already owns the record. So
And 205 actually might be the Super Bowl record too. Like not for us, but the overall Super Bowl record. Which will in line be with our playoff record. But all right, so Eric 32 for the Eagles, 31 for the Chiefs. Saquon with 285 yards.
An MVP. Aaron.
So,
You're up.
what do you want first?
Huh?
What do you want? What do you want first?
Again, you can give me as little or as much as you want. The only thing I'm requiring you to give me is a score and an MVP. Everything else is up to you.
So, like my analysis of the game.
Sure.
Um, as cliche as is to say, probably, I think it's going to come down to defense. Um,
Defense wins championships, you know.
this is true. Big believer in that. Usually, most of the time, obviously, the team that scores the most wins, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the defense is always better. Just the offense is that much better.
Mhm.
But I'm more interested in the defensive aspect of this game than the offensive because, like offensively, I know what to expect. Defensively, I'm more intrigued to see what happens on both sides of the ball with obviously Spags' blitzing and then just the for for the memes, the stout defense that the Eagles have
Mhm.
on their along their front line.
Mhm.
Um, I think the Chiefs' key to win is just being able to get rid of the ball. Obviously, I feel like they're going to probably be pressured more than what they're maybe used to or have been this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, obviously, the biggest key for them, I think, and obviously, again, this is probably goes without saying, is they have to find some way to slow down Saquon. I think they can win if they hold him to about 115, 120. I think it's possible. I think any more than that, they probably don't. That's my magic number is probably 115, 117. Um, I don't know if that'll happen, but that's just the number that I'm going to go with. I feel like even if he has over 100, doesn't necessarily mean they win. I think it obviously gives them a probably 85% likelihood that they do win if he rushes for over 100 yards. It's just kind of hard to imagine that if they're letting him rush for that much, that Jalen's not doing something as well on top of
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Um, I expect him to feed AJ Brown a lot this game, since the Chiefs, are primarily a man defense with a cover one. They'll sometimes like mix in double coverage here and there.
Throw in some
Um,
double coverages. They'll play zone off of exotic blitzes, typically out of a cover 6 or 9.
right.
They do a lot of
To,
cover 2 to 3. They double rotate safeties after the snap. They're really good.
Yeah, I foresee them probably trying to run that spy constantly on Hurts like they did for Josh Allen. Like I just expect that to happen. Um,
They only spied Josh Allen on third downs.
right, but that's what I'm saying. Like on those third downs, I expect that to be a regular for them. Is what I'm saying. I'm not saying like they're doing it every down, but like I know
Yeah.
third down wise, especially with the you know the
What
conversion
they
rate that
can
they
do.
have. Yeah,
Mhm.
I just if they're not giving it to like obviously if it's a 3rd and 2, they're probably just going to give it to Saquon, and it's not going to be Jalen Hurts throwing the ball or potentially running it per se, unless it's a tush push. But
Oh, third and anything shorter than 4, we're running. Expect a
um,
run on anything shorter than 3rd and 4 because of 4th and 1.
as lackluster as it's been for the Eagles, I feel like they need to stuff the run. Even though that the Chiefs don't run well, it's those weird plays that they will run off 20, 30 yards, whether it's, Worthy, gets uh gets a pitch along the backfield off a motion and just somehow breaks it off the corner, or it's a 3rd and 8, and then Pat just happens to run toward the pylon or like toward the sideline and comes back in and gets another 15
Mhm.
plus yards than he needs to and gets you know trying to limit those like second. Obviously, I know we talked about the Eagles' third down numbers and how they're the best in the
I
league.
have a, off of that, I have a small like mini prediction inside of your prediction.
Okay.
He will try to do that, and he'll do a late slide, and it won't be called in this game. That's my
But
I am betting that's what it is, as they do every year with the Super Bowl, they start their officiating points of emphasis in that game. and then they carry that into the next season, right? Typically,
Mhm.
that's like we've seen that in other games, pass interference, holding calls, um, face mask calls, not hip drop tackle. There was 3 years ago, they used replay in a way that they would then use in the season coming for
Mhm.
like the expedited replays or whatever. They used it in the Super Bowl. So I think that's what they're going to do here. They're going to use this game specifically with a player that has been considered as like, I guess this point has to be discussed for half a second. I'm sorry for interrupting your
You're good.
analysis. We didn't talk about it for 2 hours now, and for rightfully so, because I think all of us are on the same side, where the Chiefs are an incredibly well coached team.
Mhm.
The officials are not giving them calls.
No.
There's some calls that we may not agree with. The Will Anderson hitting his teammate over Patrick Mahomes' head, not being, roughing the passer, sure. But I can also see where that call was made. Like, what call was made last week, in the Bills game that everybody had
You're
a
talking about
problem with.
was it the catch or was it the first down spot?
Either of them, both were right. The catch has to be completed. If they're saying that he had possession, that is what it is. That's bad officiating. But the process in which that they said that he gathered the play is correct. Nothing that they said in the explanation of that play was incorrect.
Mhm.
So I'm having it here on the record, non-Chiefs fan. It's not the fucking refs. And if you think it's the refs, you're a loser.
The only other missed call, and I'm pretty sure I talked to you about this, like in our chat, was you'd have to go back to the Texans game. And in hindsight, it didn't change anything because they still scored a touchdown. But there was uh, the refs again, and they miss spot the ball all the time. And I'm not just acting like it happens to the Chiefs, but this was a terrible spot. Like when I have the advantage of watching it from a television. I'm not on the field. So let me preface when I say this, but like even watching it when he was running, and I know everyone's going to say, "Oh, well, that's just where they deem the first down to be. It's not always correct." But like I watched that like in real time and during replays. There was it was when they scored to get to 16, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or it was one of those
On the
touchdown drives.
take
I think
touchdown,
I think it was in the first half still, and
their first touchdown.
whatever it was, and I think it was I'm pretty sure it was a run. Clearly, by the time he went down, ball was well past, like was a yard past the first down marker. They marked him well short of the first down, and then they got a penalty, backed him up to 3rd and 8. They ended up converting and then scored a touchdown. But like mistakes happen. People are human. Let's not act like this is just happening to the Chiefs. But like
Yeah.
like that's one
You're
what
incredible with that. It was in the third quarter,
uh,
start of the third quarter. I found it. It was 2nd and 3. Joe Mixon up the middle for 2 yards, tackled by Chris Jones and Mike Pennell.
hmm
And then C.J. Stroud. Wait, no, but there was another one a little bit further down. That they connected on because they scored the touchdown on
hmm
after they converted on the play right after that. Um, CJ up the middle for 13 yards, Mixon up the middle for 1 yard, penalty, illegal motion, made it
hmm
3rd and 5, and then CJ scrambled for 6, and then they scored the touchdown.
Yeah.
So good job.
Yeah.
Well, which one was which, like you said, they're all, the refs are humans and whatnot, and everyone makes errors. Like there was, I mean, I paid attention to the Chiefs playoffs game, but I was like, yeah, whatever. Um, wasn't there one where like, was it the Bills game where Pat ran it and then he slid and the two defensive players actually hit each other?
That's what I
That
was
was
just
the
talking
Texans
about
game.
earlier. That was
Is that
Will
Texans game.
okay?
Anderson and Daniil
Was
Hunter, I
that?
think, were the two that hit each other over the
Yeah.
top of Mahomes' head.
Yeah.
And so apparently they did review that call in that game, like from upstairs. So the way that the rule is written is that if there is any contact to the helmet, they cannot pick up the flag. And so because there was incidental contact, they couldn't pick up that flag.
Mm-hmm.
So if it would have been not called in the moment, it would
They
have
would-
continued to be not called.
Correct.
But since it was called, it had to continue to be called. So that's going to be revised in the off season to where that can be reviewed, and there's going to be a discretionary part of it. The other part that got brought up and I don't remember if it was on one of the talk shows throughout the weeks or if it was actually on a broadcast. They don't get the same views that we get.
Mm-mm.
They get like 4 views to try to make this decision. When it's 2025, these companies are paying billions of dollars to be able to show every single blade of grass that they fucking can in these games. You're telling me you don't want to use their technology?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. So either way, refs, not the problem. We're all 3 in agreement here.
Yep.
Cool. You have your score still. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. To finish my talk about the Eagles stopping the run, but yeah, just and with like Pacheco being back, like him and Kareem Hunt just seem to find a knack in these late moment games to also like, you know, seal the game by getting these, you know, 15, 12, 18-yard runs that, you know, can make a big difference. And like you cut just some of those plays out, like you're hindering them, I think, greatly because a lot of their momentum is built off those what seem to be kind of insignificant runs. But in the grand scheme of things, like it just seems to always build their momentum when they have just one of those plays.
Mhm.
And they seem to get, you know, 3 to 4 of those a game, give or take.
Yeah.
So I feel like if they do that, uh, they feed AJ Brown, which again, obviously, I know he's their best receiver. Obviously, that goes without saying.
Yeah. He's a
And
top 5
then,
receiver for sure. Definitely better than Amon-Ra St. Brown.
um, and then for either team, because they're the 2 least penalized teams in the league, Chiefs at the top with 5.9 or 5.4, I'm sorry, and the Eagles are at 5.9 right behind them. Uh, Playing clean is going to matter. Penalties are going to matter. Turnovers or lack thereof are going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can cause just one turnover and you don't turn the ball over, you're giving yourself a damn good shot to win the game because neither of these 2 teams get penalized rarely. So like mistakes should be at an all-time low.
They're also both exceptionally good at scoring off of turnovers.
Mhm.
Like it's not just forcing turnovers. When they force you to turn the ball over, no matter where it is, whether it's a deep in like your own, like you're going down to score and it's a red zone turnover, midfield turnover, or in your own, in your own plus zone, they're all exceptional about scoring.
But the thing that the Eagles have too is obviously with having Saquon and running as much as they do, obviously with all of the what would you say the rushing attempts that they had, what does that do? That
611 of them or whatever it
yeah.
was.
That eats up the clock a lot. And how do you beat Mahomes? You keep him off the field. The longer that you're keeping that defense out there, even if you're not scoring every possession, they're going to get tired. If there's just that's any defense. If they're having to go out there and play 8-minute shifts, you're like 5+ minute shifts. Like, yeah, you may only get like a touchdown here, a field goal there, maybe you punt. But like if you're getting long possessions to where you're not doing 3 and outs or you're only having the ball for 2 minutes, like you're gonna wear that defense out. And that goes obviously for the Chiefs too. If you can get them to obviously not have the ball for that long, either, vice versa for either team. But I think it highly benefits the Eagles to keep Patrick off more than the Chiefs keeping Jalen off. So that time possession I think is probably one of the biggest factors. More so obviously for like I said for the Eagles than it is for the Chiefs. The Chiefs don't need a whole lot of time to score, but I feel like if the Eagles want to win, they need to dominate the time of possession to win. But those are my key points for either team to win. My score is 33-27. Chiefs.
Wow.
I'm going with my pick that I've had
So
since
let me ask you
preseason.
this. Let me ask you this since you went with the Chiefs. Do you think now you talked about turnovers and creating turnovers? Do you think the Chiefs stop Philadelphia's tush push like they did the Bills?
No.
I didn't ask you.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
I know
Not,
your answer.
not to the
I have a reason why too, but
not to the efficacy, because it's well known that Josh Allen likes to go to his left guard when he did that, and he never changed that, which is why it didn't work against
But it's worked all
him.
season. See what I
Correct.
mean?
But
And
this, yeah,
and when
but
it mattered, it
remember,
didn't work.
remember what we talked about this being one of the best coach, if not the best coach team.
Yeah.
So, because how many times did they have to do it when they played in the regular season? I don't think they had to do it.
Yeah.
Alex, go ahead.
Go
I don't
ahead,
want to
Alex.
interrupt you, Eric. Go ahead.
No, you're good. No, the only thing I was gonna say with I don't understand the tush push with the Bills because the one play that they should have used, which I'm kind of going back on it, but we shouldn't be. But I don't know what you'd probably be able to tell me what play it is. It's where Josh Allen spreads everyone out. It's literally run. He has no one in the backfield. He has
Quarterback
everyone
draw?
wide. Yeah, and he quarterback draws, and he automatically gets 3 yards. It's
The-
automatic fourth down conversion for them.
The
Mm-hmm.
correct way for Josh Allen to play fourth downs is exactly what you're talking about. Quarterback
And
draw,
they-
RPO, screen options.
And they
Not
did
the-
it like
not the
one
tush
time.
push. Correct.
No, it's because he is 6'6", 240 pounds, and that 240 pounds isn't fucking muscle. It's Josh Allen being a white man that's 6'5". That's what it is. Jalen Hurts is a 5'11" man that also weighs 240 pounds, but it's all in his quads. Additionally, when the Bills do the tush push, they don't push.
It's true.
Khalil Shakir, what's his name?
Shakir.
Shakir, whatever. Is it Khalil or Khalil? Is it Khalil?
Khalil Shakir.
Khalil
Khalil Shakir literally was standing there in the backfield on the fourth down when they didn't get the play, celebrating. Like, that's why they won't stop Jalen Hurts' tush push. Also, if you don't think that the Eagles saw the Bills run 12 quarterback sneaks, we're not going to call it a tush push because that's not what it is. When they ran 12 quarterback sneaks and they saw that they stopped them on 7 of them or whatever the number was there, they're going to be like, oh, maybe we run some tendency breakers there. That's exactly the reason that they ran that stupid ass fake tush push, launch it down deep to AJ Brown against the Packers.
Didn't you guys do a fancier one too, where you threw it back to Saquon?
I mean, we have one where we like toss it to Saquon.
Like
waiting for the
Jalen
one-
falls forward, but then he turns around and then throws it to your tailback. I think you guys did that once.
We
in the
tried something
playoffs.
like that. It didn't work out. I think we did it in the Falcons game. It was bad.
Uh,
But either way, it's not the same. There's a reason why people across different levels of football have tried it, and it's not been successful anywhere except Philly. And it's because it's a Philly thing.
Correct. Which
That's-
is why I didn't say that they would necessarily stop the tush push, but
Yeah.
he also said something about Eric said something about turnovers and then went to tush push. I don't know how those two correlate, but
I mean,
turnover on downs.
okay, that's fair.
that's
Because
fair.
usually when the Eagles are doing a tush push, it's fourth and 1, 3-1, fourth and inches. I mean, so that's where I was going with it.
I told Aaron earlier.
But
in
no,
the-
I don't think that they stop those plays. I think if they do, they maybe stop one, but if they run multiple, I don't think they do.
So I've watched every single snap of the Eagles season minus the Bucks game because we didn't have AJ Brown, we didn't have Devontae Smith. I knew for a fact we weren't winning that game in Tampa. We all also, it's well documented, I feel like, on this show how much I am scared of Tampa Bay when they play the Eagles. I
Well,
think that's
remember when they were playing the Packers and I told you I had to quit watching because when I started watching, they started losing and then they
Yep.
ended up winning. You're welcome.
Yeah. That's neither here nor there. What I'm getting, I've watched every single snap except for that one game. And so I feel like I have a really good grasp on this team. With living in Kansas City, I think I also have a pretty good grasp on the Chiefs. And last year, if you guys remember, we did this with the Chiefs and Niners, and what happened? My whole analysis was like a drive off, and it was the overtime drive that I was off on, or else I would have been basically perfect. So on my fourth page of notes here, I have a lot less notes, but I still have some. And this is the game plan notes I have for each team, because as we do on this show, we're pretty unbiased. So I'll start with the Chiefs. And the first thing that they've got to do is play Joe Tooney at guard, not at tackle. The Eagles, while we have good pass rushers and Nolan Smith and Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham on the edge, Jalen Carter is going to be the person that ruins this game. And while eventually I think he'll be better than what Chris Jones is, we don't utilize him the same way that they utilize Chris Jones, moving him across the entire line. And so having him in the interior is going to be the best way to protect him. I can tell you right now, if you play Tooney at left guard and play Frank Caliendo at left, or sorry, if they play Tooney at left tackle and Caliendo at left guard, Jalen Carter is going to eat. The next thing that they need to do is not focus about going deep. They need to focus on moving the defense laterally. What that's going to do is, because we're a zone scheme defense, it's going to cause the entire defense to have to communicate and over communicate and continue to communicate through plays. And that's where breakdown's going to occur. And with as much speed as the Chiefs have with Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, and to a certain extent, DeAndre Hopkins with, just his overall bravado of player, aura, if you will.
Deep ball threat.
You don't have to go deep though, is what I'm saying. You just keep
Yeah.
you just run.
Sorry, you can throw it up to him, any kind of route.
He's a possession guy for sure.
Yeah.
So that's what you have to do. You have to put a lot of pressure on the communication. Which, and tied with this, you have to have high percentage passes. So expect it to be a heavy screen game. Like you said, end arounds, jet sweeps, jet passes, things of that nature. Get the ball in those fast players' hands. Keep Patrick off of his back. Additionally, with that, you have to have what I consider exotic blocks. And so instead of being straight line block where your left tackle is blocking the guy in front of him, maybe have a guard wrap around and do a pull and like do double pulls. You're going to have things that are exotic, long pulls, cracks, wide receiver chips, things that you're not typically going to see in a typical day-to-day game plan.
The fake screening, like was it that Kelsey had? I think that was against the Bills that got Worthy open on one of his routes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so the next thing goes to their defense, because a lot of that's offensive stuff, right? The defensive points that I have for them, it's a lot of the same things that we said, but I'm going to tweak it just slightly. And I'm not doing this just because I wanted to. I had written this down and I can send you a picture after. Force Saquon into less yards after contact. And so that's an important part here, is that we talked about it throughout this show, is that Saquon is really good about not only not getting touched before he gets a lot of yards, but after he gets touched, he also is good at continuing to run the ball. The first person that touches him typically isn't the person that's bringing him down. The Chiefs, on the other hand, actually are one of the better tackling teams, but their secondary, this is the important part, actually has the 5th highest missed tackle rate. And so if Saquon gets to the second level, that play can be gone. And so that's an important part here. The other part that they have to do is eliminate A.J. Brown early and Devontae Smith late. Devontae Smith doesn't have to be fed anything. I think A.J. Brown, to keep him entertained and keep him in the game, does. And that's not to say that he's not focused and locked in. I think he plays every single snap the same way, but it's obvious. How do I say this without being wrong? The drops that he had in the first 2 postseason games against the Rams and the The Packers were uncharacteristic of AJ Brown. Those were things that I saw and I said, that's not AJ. What's going on with AJ internally? And I don't think those are happening after the Washington game. I think the Washington game was a get right game.
Mhm.
But they have to eliminate AJ early, so he takes himself out of the game effectively. And then Devontae late because he is who we go to in crucial situations. We saw it with the Kenny Pickett play against Washington in week 16. Granted, he dropped that pass, but also week 3 against the Falcons, week 4 um, against the Saints before he went out of that game, week 9 as well. I mean, we go to him constantly on third and fourth down situations, crucial situations. You got to be able to lock him up. And lastly, and this goes to the high percentage pass plays, play through the running backs and tight ends. While I said you have speed on with your receivers, if you're moving them laterally and you can't get them open, you're going to have the openings through the running backs and the tight ends because that means that we're mucking up those corners and those edges, but not the opening down the like in the middle of the field or behind the line of scrimmage. And so that's kind of what I can foresee there. That's the Chiefs game plan. On the other side, Philadelphia Eagles game plan. My first point, Saquon Barkley. You guys said everything I need to say there, but really it comes down to his effectiveness. So you both said that him under 100 yards gives the chance to the Chiefs an opportunity to win. I truly don't think it has anything to do with the amount of yards Saquon has. I truly do not. Because I think I trust Jalen. I trust him. And there's weird thing happened, right, with Jalen, where 2 years ago, everybody doubted Jalen. We talked about how this is a transition year. We don't know how good the Eagles are going to be. And they're probably going to be in the conversation for Bryce Young next year with, that high pick that the Saints had. And then that Saints pick turned into what we used for Jalen Carter because Jalen Hurts got us to the Super Bowl. We then paid him $250 million and everything else that came with that. He was doubted that year. He was doubted going into the Super Bowl. And then,
You doubted him that year.
huh?
You doubted him.
I doubt. I'm saying he was doubted, but he was an MVP candidate
He was.
after all of that doubt. The last year, what happened? He went into the season with what? Expectations. People
Mhm.
thought he was going to be better. People thought he was going to build off of that Super Bowl, and what happened? He struggled. And it led to, the biggest collapse in Eagles history, of course. 1-6 down the stretch, losing our last 6 or 5 regular season games. It was terrible. And then he comes into this season, what did everybody think? Average to below average quarterback most of the year. It's a Jalen game, baby. It's a Jalen game. The important part about Saquon, though, is 22. And I said this number earlier. When Saquon gets 22 carries, Saquon gets 100 yards. When Saquon has gotten 100 yards this year, we have won all but one game, I think is what it was. And that was the Falcons game. So that Jalen finished because he didn't finish the Pickett game and he had 100 yards clearly in that game too. He had 100 yards in the first quarter. But that's what I have there for Saquon. And my next point is Jalen Hurts timely throws. That's the important part. Is when we get because there's going to be moments where we are in 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s, and he has to make a timely throw because I think you are right. I think we are going to see a spy on 3rd downs a lot. And while Jalen's fast, I watched Nick Bolton outrun him in the Super Bowl 2 years ago after he fumbled and took it back for a touchdown. So, and that was if outside of that one play, Jalen Hurts probably outplayed Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl. But the most important part of the offense is playing our game. And I think that is the hardest part when you play the Chiefs is playing your game. You start playing the Chiefs game because you start thinking about, oh, I'm going to have to match Patrick. I'm going to have to do this. The numbers don't indicate that's what you have to do this year. The numbers just indicate you have to be you. But the reason the Ravens continue to lose to the Chiefs, the reason the Bills continue to lose to the Chiefs, and what's going to ultimately happen is the Chargers are going to continue to lose to the Chiefs and the Texans are going to continue to lose to the Chiefs is because they try to play the Chiefs game. The Chiefs go into every game saying, this is how we want to make you play. And then they just say, okay, we'll play that way then. And we feel confident in beating you. And we don't need to do that. The Chiefs are going to try to take Saquon away, but they're not going to do it with a stacked box. They're going to do it with a layered box. So they're going to have five guys on one on or sorry, they're going to have three guys responsible for Saquon on one level. They're going to have two guys responsible for Saquon on the second level. They're going to have two guys responsible for Saquon on the third level. They're going to have then the third level guys and second level guys are going to have primary jobs first. But because you're so far away from the line of scrimmage, you can then watch the line of scrimmage, determine if Saquon has the ball, and you can continue to have that. They're going to have a layered approach to stopping Saquon. But when Saquon gets 22 yards or 22 carries, he gets 100 yards. And when Saquon gets 100 yards, the Eagles effectively win. Additionally, the Eagles are traveling west. The Chiefs are traveling east. This century, no team that has traveled east to face a team that's traveling west has won a Super Bowl. And going even deeper than that, out of the 59 Super Bowls, it has happened 29 times, and they're 2-27. So, and this century, I think it's happened 8 times, just for context. One of the 2 times also, it was San Francisco playing Denver in 1985. And that game was played in Palo Alto, California, which is 13 miles east of San Francisco. So I don't know if we really want to count that, but that's that number there. But basically, teams traveling west to play teams that are east are undefeated. The game is in Louisiana. The Eagles are traveling west. The Chiefs are traveling east. The Eagles are 5-0 on artificial turf, synthetic turf, which is what is used in the Caesars Superdome this season. They additionally only allow 11.6 points per game on said turf, which is 7 points lower than their season average, which was still the second best in the league by 0.2 points to the Chargers. Their offense averaged 27 points a game. That offense that Jalen Hurts couldn't function and couldn't run and wasn't a good quarterback in averaged 27 points a game, which was third in the league. Meanwhile, the Chiefs, who have the greatest quarterback in the league, averaged just under 22, good for 21st in the league. And that being said, it's Patrick Mahomes. I get it. And it's the Chiefs in the playoffs, and Andy Reid, greatest coach of all time. I feel confident in saying that. But I have been told the last 2 weeks since the Super Bowl, whatever it may be, that the gap between Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes is this. Sorry, can't see it in my hands now. There we go. It's this. When really, it's probably like this. And I think like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow even are all right here. Jalen's right here. It's not far.
Now, let me ask you this, though.
What's up?
Do that same thing for head coaches.
Right here.
No.
Aaron,
No.
listen, you can ask him.
No.
I brought this up to him and John 2 weeks
No.
ago. Did I not?
You're high.
I brought it up to him and John 2 weeks ago. Nick Sirianni is the third best coach in the league. He's the third best coach in the league. It's Andy Reid. And then I'll even let you choose between Sean McVay or Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh, whoever. Mike Tomlin, one of those 4. And then it's Nick Sirianni. You know who has the second most wins in the last 3 years? Nick Sirianni. He's 53-23 in the last 3 years, including playoffs. He's one of the only coaches in NFL history to make the playoffs his first 4 seasons. He's one of 2 coaches to never have a losing season. The other one being Mike Tomlin. And now, for the second time in 4 seasons as a head coach, it's really the second time in 3 seasons, he's in the Super Bowl. He's 6-2 in the playoffs. Or sorry, 5-2 in the playoffs. What do you want from him? You mad because he has a personality and he may say and do the wrong things? Guess what, buddy? If I ever become a coach, do you think I'm any fucking different than that dude?
I've never had a problem with his personality. But when you look at career versus career, there is a big gap.
The only gap that exists is time. The only gap that exists is time. In the first 4 seasons that Andy Reid was in Philly, you know how many NFC Championship games he made? 0. In Andy Reid's first 4 years in Philly, do you know how many Super Bowls he made? 0. In Andy Reid's first 4 years in Philly, do you know how many MVP candidates he had? 0.
Okay. Do the first years as a Chiefs head coach.
The first years as a Chiefs head coach, he had 0 playoff wins. He had 0 Super Bowls. He had, because remember, it was Matt Castle, Brock Heward, and fucking Alex Smith, man.
For how many years?
He got there in 2013. Pat didn't start his first game until 2018. So the first 4 years in Kansas City, he went to the playoffs, but he didn't win. He didn't make a conference championship game. He didn't make a Super Bowl. He didn't have an MVP candidate.
That's what he just did to you.
No, what I'm just getting at is that he's not one of his top greatest coaches of all time now. This is what
Who?
he did to me. You.
Andy?
Yes.
No, because again, the only thing separating them is time. I'm not saying Andy's not number one. And you like to do this with all of the arguments where we're talking 1 versus 2 or 3 or whatever it may be, where you're like, oh my God, you think he's shit now because you think the other guy's good. I don't have to blow somebody's candle out, Eric, to make the other person's burn brighter. That ain't what I do, dog. But I know that Nick Sirianni holds the record for most wins in Philadelphia Eagles history in a single season with 14. I know that he's the only coach in our history to have 3 straight 11-win seasons. And we're one of the most storied franchises in the country, in the history. 9 NFL championships, a Super Bowl, 5 appearances now. One of the original 8 teams in the league.
See how he's saying all this, and he's going to pick the Chiefs to win.
So back to my points. The next point, A.J. Brown has to have 3 catches in the first quarter. Has to happen. This one's a little bit more nuanced. The Chiefs, a lot of times teams think that they have to go bar for bar with the Chiefs. They don't have to. Especially this year. The Chiefs punt more than they ever have this year. The Chiefs kick more field goals in the red zone than they ever have this year. And they're going to continue to do that. So when you're inside the 25, if it's 4th and 5, kick the field goal. If it's inside the 50, but not yet to 25, and it's 4th and 5, go for it. And the reason is because I don't trust Jake Elliott right now. I love Jake Elliott to death, but he's not going to be our kicker next year. And the reason is because he can't kick 50-yard field goals. So take that out of the equation. Don't kick anything more than 45. And if it's 4th and 5 or less, before the 25, go for it. But after the 25, kick the field goals. Because we got to accumulate the points. You got to get the points as often as you can in this game. Because while I think there is a path to beat the Chiefs, and you can do it without field goals, and you can do it by being aggressive and doing that, that's how the Chiefs beat you. That is how the Chiefs get you. Their defense. I have their 4th down stats over here. Their defense, the people went for it 23 times against them, which was 17th in the league. They only converted 12 times. For anybody else that went for it 23 times, most of those conversions were like 17, 16, 14, because it's a higher percentage number. The Eagles, for example, stopped teams 11 times as well. But people went against it 30 times against them, and they gave it up 19 times. The Chiefs don't give you 4th downs. They have to be high percentage 4th downs. They'll give you 3rd downs all day. But when it comes to fourth down, they get off the field. And so you got to be aggressive past the 50. But anything that's 4th and 3 or less or more, you have to kick inside the 25. The next point I have here is make Patrick look through at least 2 of his progressions. And so that's going to mean disguising coverages really well, because a lot of times while he may be looking somewhere else, he's not progressing. He's not going actually through progressions. He knows where he's going. And so you got to make him go through progressions, which is then going to give Jalen Carter, Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith time to get home. Which then leads to my last thing here. Get home with 4. Don't blitz. Mahomes, we've seen the stats. Mahomes is excellent against the blitz. And again, I'm going to give respect where respect's due. He's shown that he can do it in the past. I'm going to believe that he can do it in the future. Respect it. So those are my keys to the game. In the first quarter, on the first drive, the Chiefs are going to be the ones that are calling the flip. They're going to lose the coin toss, and the Eagles are going to defer to the second half. Chiefs are going to start with the ball. They're going to go 30 yards down the field. We're going to kick it into the end zone. So they're going to start at the 30. They're going to go down to the 40, and they're going to kick a field goal, go up 3-0 to start the game. Butker's going to have 57, 58-yard field goal there. We're going to get the ball. Our first play is going to be a pass play, but it's going to be that RPO play that we like to run to Dallas Goedert, where we have the opportunity to give it to Saquon, but then Goddard rolls out into the flat, and it's a bootleg basically to give Jalen a high percentage throw. But overall, Saquon's going to dominate the drive. He's going to have 6 carries. However, Jalen's not going to complete a third down pass, and we're going to kick a field goal inside the red zone, tie it at 3. It's about 3 minutes left in the quarter at this point because we took 7 minutes off the clock. Chiefs get the ball, go 7 and out. What I mean by that is they're going to get a first down on the first play, take 3 possessions or 3 plays to get the first down on the second play, 3 plays not get the first down. Punt the ball back to the Eagles. They're going to get it inside the 10-yard line. They're going to drop us probably at the 8-9-yard line. We're going to come out with a crackback toss to the left, similar to what we ran against Washington to start the game, similar to the run in the snow for Saquon against the Rams. He's going to get 26 yards on that play. We're then going to matriculate down the field, and we're going to throw a touchdown to Devontae Smith from 16 yards out on a corner route. Okay? 10-3 Eagles. Chiefs go down the field. A couple major third down completions to Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. The Xavier Worthy one being for 26 down the seam on Cooper DeJean and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They get down to the 26-yard line. Ball is thrown to Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce catches it. He turns to run. He tries to fight for yards. And that's when Oren Burks pops the ball out of his hands. Eagles recover the fumble. Eagles go 3 and out. Hey, we're not perfect. It's okay. We kick the ball back to them. They get the ball back at the 35-yard line. There's about 5 minutes left in the half at this point. And they take the ball down. And with about 1 minute and 47 seconds left, score a touchdown. It's going to be a touchdown to Noah Gray. It's going to be 10-10. Eagles get the ball. And they throw a beautiful ball down the seam. Not the seam, sorry. Down the numbers on the right side to A.J. Brown. It's 32 yards down the field. He catches the ball at the 38. Saquon has a couple carries. We try to throw it to Dallas Goedert across the middle. He drops it. We kick a field goal with about 35-ish seconds, 33-ish seconds left in the half.
And
We
he
missed
misses
the
it.
kick. We go into halftime tied at 10.
It's like we know his mind.
It's because we work together, guys. Come on now. So halftime comes by. Kendrick does his thing. It's a
Oh,
hell of a
halftime?
show. Yeah,
Halftime?
halftime.
Best
Yeah,
part of the game.
SZA's gonna come out.
They're
They're gonna do Luther.
We love SZA.
Travis Scott's going to be there. Future's going to be there. They're going to do Like That. And then he's going to do Not Like Us to end the set. They're going to come back out. Cooper DeJean is on defense. He's our punt returner. He plays a critical part in this game, but not quite yet. Will Shipley is our kick returner. He's going to take this ball back to the 36-yard line. From the 36-yard line, we run a 9-play, 4-minute and 43-second drive down the field to an A.J. Brown 20-yard touchdown catch. So there's about 11 minutes left or 10 minutes left or so. The Chiefs get the ball back.
17-10.
Chiefs work the ball down the field. However, Travis Kelce has a critical third down drop, which is what he has done so far in the playoffs a couple times. And they kick a field goal, 17-13. Next, the Eagles get the ball. Jalen Hurts throws his first pick of the playoffs at the 50-yard line to Trent McDuffie. The Chiefs go down the field because, like I said, they score on turnovers and score a touchdown to Xavier Worthy here. Or Kareem Hunt. I can't decide quite yet who's going to score to get them to 20 here. But they get the 20. And there's about 2.5, 3 minutes left in the quarter at this point. But it was a pick. And so it's 20-17 now. Chiefs are up. On the right side, right over Mekhi Becton's right shoulder. He has a juke move on Nick Bolton instead of going to the outside like he has broken almost every other run, he jukes inside because Justin Reed has gone to cover Dallas Goedert in the flat. And so he has an open lane through the middle. As long as he gets past Nick Bolton, he stiff-armed Nick Bolton and goes 60 yards for a touchdown. 24-20. Yeah. But they scored too quick. It's still the third quarter. And so Patrick Mahomes gets the ball back and he starts moving the ball. And he's moving the ball. And he kicks another field goal. 23-24. Eagles get the ball. They go back down. They score again. So it's 30-23 now. They go for 2 to go up by 9. And the reason I say they do that is because Vic Fangio, in a interview this week, said he mentioned a critical time late in the game against the Chiefs in 2022 in the Super Bowl, 2023 Super Bowl, where we had the ball deep in their side of the field. We turn the ball over to them, they go down, and they basically end the game. And we were going to go up. We were going to go down the field there, and we were going to score. We were trying to score a touchdown. And if we scored a touchdown, we were going to go for 2 and go up by 9. Is basically what he said. And so we tried to do it this time because we actually scored. We don't score the 2-point conversion though, so it's 30-23. It's about 9 minutes here. Chiefs go down the field. Quickly, by the way, score a touchdown. Travis Kelce gets his touchdown. He breaks Jerry Rice's record for most touchdowns in a postseason, in postseason history. And they missed the extra point. Cooper DeJean saves the game as Patrick Mahomes tries to find Xavier Worthy for a 35-yard pass down the middle of the field. DeJean intercepts him at the 16-yard line, kneels. Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl champion and MVP. That's your story. Eagles, 33. Chiefs, 29. So you gotta let us know, guys. That's the end of the show. That's all we do. We don't talk about what I feel. We don't let them go, but that's the story, and that's what's going to happen. Eagles get their second ring in 8 years and in franchise history, stop the three-peat, which, by the way, the Eagles, just for fun facts, I'm going to play a little loose with the numbers here. Eagles have already stopped a three-peat once. Did you know that, Eric? So in 2016, the Patriots beat the Falcons after the 28-3 special, right? In overtime. And in 2018, the Patriots beat the Rams. Was it 19-3 in that game? Whatever it was bad. But the Eagles beat the Patriots in the middle of that run, if you remember that, 43-38, breaking a dynasty. Additionally, that was the second time we played the Patriots in the Super Bowl. The first time we lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl with a GOAT quarterback winning his third ring. Can I do it again? We are. I think we are. But you got to let us know. Are we geniuses or are we just crazy? We will be back after the Super Bowl. It may not be next week, but we will be back soon to talk about how this game goes. Everybody, please be responsible this weekend. And if your team wins, congratulations. And